We are recording. Hey guys, Bobby Thompson here with another episode of Jiu-Jitsu and Coffee. And on this episode, we've got my good friend Kris Kofstad to my right. We've got, as always, Nikki, Baudin, and we've got my good friend Brenden, Secor. And today, I wanted to do things a little bit different. So since I typically take the lead, I wanted to kind of start with Nikki or Brenden and let them. Well, you go ahead and eat. We'll start with Brenden.
Oh,
so
right, great.
I wanted to let Brenden kind of start the kind of questioning for Kris. Well, that said, let me give a little quick rundown about who Kris is and why he's here. So I started training with Kris. I believe I can't remember if it was 07 or 09 when I went over to WMA. It was like 07, somewhere around there.
Yeah, so about 07. It was 06, 07, right, that range.
I think it was 07. I think it was 2007. Mm-hmm. I went there. I was had like effectively zero striking, which I'm a little bit above that now. Like now I'm like a 1. But Kris is who I saw Kris and I did recognize he was a talented striker and he was grappling at the time. But I kind of made up my mind at that time that if I was going to fight, he was going to be my striking coach. And then we started grappling together. He had already been doing CSW. It was a CSW school. It was already, cranking heel hooks. And I came along, with our very little to minimal leg attacks. And we started kind of learning from each other. I kind of got introduced to the ways of Eric Paulson back in the day, which opened my eyes. And Kris kind of got introduced to the ways of kind of like, fine Gracie Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, absolutely. I did a private lesson with you one day and just kind of.
It was different,
there.
right? The mentalities between Eric and
at that time I borrowed a gi. It was too big for me. I had a white belt with no bar on it. I'd probably tied it wrong, And I'd been doing grappling for 4 or 5 years before that. But,
and then we ended up traveling the world together.
Yeah.
And we ended up going. Yeah. We've been to all over Europe together. We've been all over Asia together. We've been so one of my good friends. And with that said, I wanted to kind of let Brenden take it. So we're gonna. You have any questions? We'll kind of let you start.
Oh man, put me on the spot. That's awesome.
We're gonna do it different today.
Yeah. Oh wow. So questions. You started. You obviously have a huge background in jiu-jitsu. You have your own school up in.
Yeah, I have my own school in Camden, in Georgia. So it's in St. Mary's, Kingsland, Woodbine area.
And Wyatt wrecked it. I don't know if you saw that, but at the tournament yesterday, Wyatt just like.
Really? Art bars everywhere.
Now who's this?
Wyatt, he trains with you now. He just started training with you.
Okay, yeah.
Holy shit, he just absolutely.
I call him the Spider Monkey. Yeah. He got 3 medals.
Nice.
One, I think.
Yeah, he just recently came in probably about a week or 2 ago. Yeah, nice job. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see anybody's matches or anything.
But they're on Facebook, or I have them in my phone, so I'll show you. I actually have a friend that's interested in starting up training, and he lives up in that area.
Yeah.
Like, what would you tell him? Hey, come on this day. What?
Man, you can come in anytime. Just give me a call. Yeah, check the website. Give me a call. Everything's forwarded to my phone all the time, so I get every call that comes in. So
okay. Right.
I live right around the corner. I usually meet people over there. They want to come by and check out the gym. But yeah, we are. We're in a little town that's like 50,000 maybe.
Right.
And big military base,
you
Marines,
Navy,
Coast Guard, so guys coming and going and stuff. But we have a really, a pretty amazing kids program, and that's kind of what we're focusing on,
Cool.
So.
Definitely tell me that you up. So other than jiu-jitsu, you're an avid sport bike rider? Is this your first bike?
Yeah, man. So I've been riding. Man, no, my whole family really rides dirt bikes.
Okay.
So up north in Minnesota and stuff, everybody rides dirt bikes. I never really got into it when I was a kid. I was like asking my mom, can I have a dirt bike? Can I have a dirt bike? She's like, hell no, you're not having a dirt bike. You're going to kill yourself. She was right, probably. I probably would have been maimed or disabled or something like that. But so when I first started riding bikes, I just borrowed bikes, driving them off of cliffs and crashing and using other people's bikes and crashing with no helmet and stuff like that. And then finally I was like, you know what? I think I need to legitimize my motorcycle riding. So I bought a helmet, I still ride with tennis shoes with no socks and t-shirt and stuff, just loosely. But I'm not a maniac,
No wheelies?
I have a family. No wheelies, no craziness. But really kind of just what really kept me into sport bikes and motorcycles, things like that, was doing stunts. You know, getting into some stunt work and doing some really cheesy movies, you know, that nobody's ever heard of and nobody will, that I still have some footage that's just,
I have my own stuff.
you know,
videos
stuff
too,
that I'm
man.
getting
Yeah.
kicked off of things and getting hit by cars and set on fire and all this other stuff. But
But he was
kept-
a legitimate. He actually went to
Legitimate
stunt
stunt
school.
school.
yeah, I went to
Okay,
went
yeah.
through Kim Kahana and Kahana Stunt School and the stunt action coordinators in Orlando. You know, we used to wake up every morning and run the orange groves, you know, 6-10 miles and then just blow each other up for 10 hours. Go to sleep in the dorm. I did that for probably about 60 days, a couple times in a row, you know. And so got certified as a stunt coordinator and a stunt actor, but never really went with it because I got injured, married, you know, things like that. So I didn't really take off. I didn't want to move to LA, you know, and all this. So that's kind of where that stopped, and then just kept on rocking with martial arts, you know, Kung Fu, Filipino martial arts, you know, grappling in every form.
You've been training since you were a kid.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm 31 years in, actually.
like you've been striking like how long?
Well, I was 8 years old and I started doing like Tong Sudo, and I did that in this little town up in northern Minnesota. My stepmother got me involved, and you know, first day I was just hooked. I was just hooked on it. I couldn't get enough. So basically, every place that I went as a little kid and then as a teenager and stuff, I kind of took a little break, you know. But I still trained. I still had friends that trained in Kung Fu and some crazy arts that nobody's ever heard of, like Li Jia and Bersilat and Silat and all these other crazy things. And then in Asano Academy, I started getting involved with the Asano Academy, and then I really started training within Asano. Became an instructor in Asano in both Kali and Kung Fu, and just fell in love with that. And then, man, once I trained with Bobby, I just went, that stuff's gonna have to wait. You know, jiu-jitsu is because I was working on my, you know, third black belt. You know, I was like, you know, this is something that's really gonna take a while. So I focused all my time on jiu-jitsu, and then just fell in love with jiu-jitsu. You know, I still love all that stuff. You know,
Right.
I've seen you at
training
at
with
Tiger
knives and sticks and guns and all that stuff, man. I know, you know, I love all that stuff. I teach the law enforcement. I teach the Marines. The Kingsland Police Department just called me. They had a shooting that just happened. One of their deputies shot some guy in the back, you know, running away from him because I guess he couldn't really handle the whole situation. He got freaked out, and so they called me and want me to help them gain some more confidence so that none of that stuff happens again.
Right.
You know, the
That's
Camden
good.
Sheriff's Office, I train those guys on a pretty regular basis, and they learn everything from knife defense to weapon retention and all that stuff. So, but I only do that private lesson. I don't really teach that, you know, in classes.
But it's well ingrained. I've trained with you, and obviously
Yeah.
it's no problem for you to go take a Kali, you know, a Kali class, and you're obviously well experienced. It's not.
Yeah, swinging sticks, man. It's like an extension of my hand, you know. It's just that, and then it's just so much fun teaching it. But nobody really wants to learn it on a
Yeah.
On a regular
it's-
basis,
Yeah,
or-
like you want to learn it, but then
My
it
issue.
takes so much, and it's very frustrating at the beginning because it's just basic drilling and this and that, you know, and it's just a lot of drilling, and it's not really applicable, to tell you the truth. I mean, it's not. You can't really in jiu-jitsu. You can test your skill every single day, 100%. You can't do that in the Filipino arts.
Well, the-
Building
the-
muscle
You
Yeah.
can't
memory?
because
I mean,
you take a knife and then you kill someone, and then all of a sudden training's
Well,
over.
I'll say this.
You know,
Yeah,
you're not
you
training
can't.
tomorrow.
It unquestionably makes your grappling better because
does.
you're trapping and you're I don't know the words, you know, the gunting and whatnot, but
Yeah.
I've rolled with you and I've rolled with Julian, two guys who are really good with the Filipino martial arts, and there's no question that translates to jiu-jitsu in a very positive way. Like there's no question about it.
Yeah, I did. It definitely gave me a really good foundation for sure. Yeah. And the STX and the kickboxing and the Civat and all that stuff with Eric Paulson, man, that stuff is awesome. You know, we still teach it on a daily basis, you know.
Yep. I learned my
You know,
first leg
teach
lace
Muay Thai.
from I can't remember if it was Eric directly. He definitely taught it once. I can't remember who taught it to me first, but yeah, I think
And then out in Thailand, you know, been out there quite a bit, training with Chok Chai Muay Thai and
you went to
my
Tiger with
fiance
us, right? We were
went
at
to Tiger,
yeah.
went to Chok Chai, went to Dragon. There's a couple places trained out there. So
How different? Like I know you've been striking your whole life. Was
Yeah.
it a very minimal adjustment for you to switch to a Muay Thai style?
Here, I'll tell you the truth, man. It was somewhat easy for me because I know how to differentiate or maybe just set aside all preconceived notions or any type of training that I've had and just focus on what that teacher's teaching me. And so when I make a switch from all those different martial arts, it's like I don't even train any other stuff.
So
you know what I mean? Because it's like you flip a switch and you're just like, I'm not going to say that this is better than this or this doesn't work in this and I've seen this and this. You just do the technique, man. Learn the technique traditionally so that you give credit to the art, And so I'm training in Muay Thai when I'm like this and Kung Fu and MMA and stuff. They laugh at me. They're like, MMA? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, body tall, stomach tight. Bam, I'm going to start really getting after you and being like, this is Muay Thai. This is not MMA, and so you just kind of do your thing and body changes and the stance changes and all that stuff and you just go from there. So I enjoy that part of it too,
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
That's pretty fun.
Awesome.
And be able to travel too.
Yeah,
we
that's
had,
the
we
thing.
had some good travels. We had some good times for sure.
Yeah, this last time we were in,
all over Europe.
I put 3,000 miles on my rental car,
Oh,
Yeah,
we
just
had
went everywhere.
We had a
Like,
good
oh,
time
where are we
in
going?
Europe
We're going here.
with
we're going there.
with Master Palhares
Yeah.
and Pedro and Susanna
God, it's
and
crazy driving.
Renard. Oh, man, that was a
God,
good
when
time.
you have
I'm
Renard there.
alive.
I know. Renard was with me
driving.
the whole time, so you can imagine. And I'll
my
tell you
gosh.
something about Renard, and I don't know if you know this. He can go into a trance in like 6 seconds. Like
I
he
believe
does
it,
this
yeah.
intentionally. This isn't like we can be driving, he can just shut down to the point that I'm like,
Yeah.
hey man, hey. And then you gotta kind of like snap him out of it. And he's like, no man, I'm meditating. I was meditating. And I'm like, you can meditate like 6 seconds? You go from, we're talking and then you start meditating. He's like, yeah, I've been doing it my whole life. I just go into a meditative state.
Wait, so when you just talk, he just shuts
Well,
down?
he'll wait for a break in the
Oh, okay.
conversation. He'll think we're done talking, and then next thing you know, he's solid meditating,
Oh my God.
like not a little bit, completely. He was one in
Yeah.
the full
Are his
meditative
eyes
state.
open or are they closed?
No, closed, or he'll close his eyes. If I think back on it, his eyes are closed. Yeah,
That would be weird though. Like,
but
you're
I've
just
never seen
staring,
anyone
like-
that can, because we've talked about it, and I'm like, man, are you sleeping? We were just talking. He's like, no, I'm meditating.
Wow.
Well, that's one thing with Eric Paulson. Doing seminars with him, I mean, the lights would go off at the end of the seminar. You would be laying down on the ground. You would be aligning yourself. You would be breathing. You would be doing techniques like,
Wow.
it's a real thing. If you just take the time to stop and just sit there and hum. I mean, just that in itself, just taking the time to do it, it does. It helps.
The meditation.
And that's,
Focus on your breathing.
Yeah,
focus
on your breathing,
Just let your
do all
body
that.
relax. Yeah.
Just take a break from it all and just, So he would do that stuff all the time. The same thing in Thailand. Man, Thailand's all about just being centered and respectful and there's nothing to be
spiritually
mad
aware.
about. Everything's spiritually aligned. Yeah, everything's very spiritual, and Buddha is like a huge part of everything over there. Taking off your shoes to go to the bathroom, things like that. Like we're always used to in our jiu-jitsu academies. Put your shoes on and you go in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Well, there's a sign up everywhere that says, "Please take your shoes off before you enter the restroom." In Thailand,
Wow.
because it's
I didn't notice.
Buddha's.
I didn't-
But I probably couldn't read it.
You
also,
have to take your you got to take your shoes off when you go into boats and to go into like convenience stores and things like that, And so they everything is super spiritual, and so that definitely rubs off on you.
Remember that dude, that white dude that spoke fluent Thai? Was that not mine? You were there, right? Remember we were. I know you're hanging out with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. That dude was a white guy
Yeah.
who spoke fluent English, just like you and me.
And then he
But
changes
could-
to Thai. Yeah.
Well, fluent Thai, not like partial Thai. Like that just didn't compute. My brain
Yeah.
could not understand. I looked at him and my head cocked sideways.
It's hard to understand Thai for sure. That it's a fast language, but I know
Very
some
fast.
things. Just the
All
basics.
All languages just trip me out, and I have mad respect for anybody that can speak, one other language. But there's people out there that can speak multiple.
7, 8, yeah.
I've
Well,
seen
Bobby's
little
got,
kids,
multiple
little kids just. This
bilingual.
little girl spoke like 7 different languages. I was like,
That's
dude,
my
I need
goal.
to be on this level.
That's my goal with my daughter. My goal with my daughter is to make
Yeah.
her at least quadlingual, like fluently quadlingual. That's my goal. we'll see. She may only speak one, but again, that's my goal.
Yeah, it's a benefit for travel. Definitely.
Do you speak any other
I don't
languages?
speak any other language. Yeah, no, I just speak English, and I have like little bits and pieces of Tagalog and
I think you have to live
stuff
there.
like that. And
I wouldn't. I don't think I'd ever speak another language had I not lived in another country, right? Like I lived in
spend
Italy.
even 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Every time you go in somewhere, every time it's the same thing. You see the same people. They say hello. They say goodbye. They say how are you. They speak to you, and then you just kind of pick it up. But that's pretty much all I've got. I don't really have a language.
I
other
lived
than
in
English.
I lived in Italy at 17 and 18. Well, 18 and 19. I went there just like right at the end of 17, but more accurately 18 and 19. And you can learn a language fluently in like a year, and when you're at that age, especially if you're like drinking every night, because then it just loosens you up and you're speaking. But my de facto language by the end of the first year was Italian. All I was doing was speaking Italian all the time.
So you speak 3 languages then?
Yeah, I speak Italian. I understand.
I
I
think you
used to
told me
speak
that,
it
yeah.
like
Italian,
effortless,
yeah.
right? Like, but I haven't spoken in 30 years, so it's like we're close to 30 years.
The
But-
German's pretty good though. He would order for us
Yeah.
everywhere we go.
I know. My dad actually used to speak French because he lived in Louisiana, but that was when he was like really little. He's like, I don't really remember, that much. He said he knows bits and pieces, but he said he used to speak it like really fluently when he was younger.
That was an interesting
Which
thing.
I would like to learn, but
When I was 18, 19, joined the Navy, and I was traveling, and I went over to the Mediterranean, and just going to different countries like Turkey, and then trying to get something to eat, and like looking at the menu and the different languages. Is like you can't translate that. Like, what am I? It's just just tossing it out there. Like, okay, hopefully I get some chicken and not lizard. But nowadays, I think it's cool with our phones. We've got that Google Translate. Are you familiar with that? Like, you could just put the thing over
I have it
over
on
the
my phone.
words. Yeah.
Oh my God.
There are also earpieces now that have up to
Yeah,
6
they
or 7
do.
languages or something.
That'll
Where
translate
you
in
can
real
just
time.
hand the earpiece.
talking.
Hand the earpiece to the person standing next to you. And talk
That's
with them.
interesting. Then they'll have glasses that'll
that
probably do that for
that
you.
particular thing is an advancement there when you can just put something in your ear and speak back and forth without having to mess with your phone.
That's what
I
blows my mind. Why don't we all speak the same language?
I think in
Why?
there should be like one universal language.
Oceans.
Yeah.
I think in the future, like it's gonna be like the Matrix. You're gonna be able to download. It's gonna be frustrating because we're gonna have like 40 years in jiu-jitsu, right? And then some dude's just gonna download the shit. And they're gonna be able to hang with us. Like, I think you're gonna. I think you're gonna have, because from what I've read, if you're a Ray Kurzweil fan, or he's one of the leading transhumanists. He came up with the term singularity, but that we can already add on math coprocessors to humans. Like we're already at that stage, like where you can literally add on a math coprocessor, right? So where math would be effortless for you. Oh, what's pi? It's just let me just ramble on like 900 digits of pi.
Yeah.
So
There's
imagine
biotechnology now too. That's just out of this world too. So.
Yeah, that stuff fascinates me.
I think it kind of like ruins the journey though. Like having to go through and learn everything. Just
well, I would
saying
think if there were a God, right? Like here's the thing, we're getting, I went 99.9% full flatard this week. I did. I don't mind. It's a fascinating.
Oh yeah, we were talking about.
That.
It's a fascinating.
But I have something for you on that one.
All right.
Think about.
And I love everyone. No one offends me. I know.
I don't get offended either.
My arguing, mentality, whatever, is sarcasm. Like I want to. That's how I make a point stick, right? I use sarcasm.
Get somebody to respond.
But I hate it when I lose a friend using sarcasm. I have some friends that know me so well, they're just like, you're a sarcastic fucker, It's like, bro, I still love you. I just want to engage in the argument, It's like, let me use some sarcasm. It keeps other people engaged too, or maybe not. Maybe it backs them out. But I think if there were a God, now I'm convinced there is now. Like what's the irony, and I guess we'll talk about this for a second.
I was gonna ask you that yesterday too.
So I used to be incredibly atheist, incredibly agnostic, until I started. It actually didn't start with like NASA or with flat Earth. It started with NASA. Like I had looked at flat Earth and I'm like, it could be. Like I just wanted to look at it like, could it work? Is there a model where? And I'm like, oh crap, it could work, And then one day I'm like researching NASA, and I'm like, shit, everything NASA puts out's fake. Everything, it's all fake. And I'm like, why?
Yeah, but there are thousands of photos predate CGI thousands of photos by amateurs, by people that have taken photos of Earth from space, video, firsthand accounts before CGI. And also, CGI is not a new thing. It's just different. When you had to develop film, you had to take it to a lab and you had to process it. And you had to add things and put chemicals to it and do whatever. So CGI wasn't invented late 80s or something like that, maybe. Really started getting. So long before that, there were already photos. So they couldn't have been faked. They had to be genuine.
Well,
right?
there actually are. If you really, this is the interesting thing, because like what you say is like what I used to believe too. I'm like, we got video, photos of Earth. Actually, there's no one photo of Earth. There's not even one. Like if you really
the CGI
research
is actually just bits and pieces, because as they're taking photos, things are flying.
They stitch
Things are
them
going
together.
fast, right? But you have to do that because you couldn't stop film.
But
right. So it's orbiting. There's orbiting.
The problem
cameras.
is that's the problem. We know we can go 250 miles up. We know that.
Yeah.
We know we can take photos of a flat Earth and stitch them into a globe. But that doesn't. The problem is people take that as evidence of a globe. But what you've essentially done is taken photos from 250 miles up, which do not substantiate a globe, and then you've wrapped them around a globe, and then people go, but we got photos of the globe.
Right.
And actually, no, you don't. There's not one photo in the world that's claimed to be an authentic photo of the world. And I believe that too. Like I said,
There are thousands of photos predating CGI. There's thousands of them. Also, what about lunar eclipses?
They're all explained in flat Earth theory.
How is that possible? Because from any angle, the only shape that can place an arc of an angle across the moon is a sphere.
There's actually
so you would
instances-
only actually have to. The sun would have to stay here. So it's impossible.
Actually,
that
if you were to
proves
watch
right there
the
it's a
videos,
lunar
like
eclipse.
we're not going to do it here, but I can
It's a
send you
lunar
offline.
eclipse. The Earth is round.
No. So you've been programmed that it's a lunar.
No, it's
and
not programming. I actually have a brother-in-law that has just got.
But you're
interning
changing gears.
with NASA.
You're changing gears right now.
So he's
we got to
telling
keep
you
it
a little bit.
on one
Sure.
thing.
Sure.
Did you know we've had lunar eclipses, complete eclipses of the moon, when there was nothing in between the sun and the moon? In other words.
What do you mean?
Well, that's exactly. What do I mean? I mean we've had complete lunar eclipses when the Earth was not between the sun and the moon.
And this is when? When was this?
January 1st, 2018. It happened this year.
Okay.
Brenden. Or Brenden.
I know. You got to
He's like,
research
pour
it.
me into-
You
No,
gotta-
I have. I
think,
have.
If I remember
Here's the
right,
thing,
if
though,
I remember right, but don't like. All I know is it has
Physics.
happened.
Physics
I
also- I'm
getting
I
ready.
believe the date I saw.
But then when you
we gotta
what-
get loose on this
see what
episode.
physics-
We got loose on this one.
what physics explains
God,
is something
Brenden.
completely different than what the flat Earth.
I don't
would be.
agree with that. I don't
And
disagree
but
with
now
that.
that you believe in a God, then that covers your basis.
No, I didn't believe in a God.
Well, you
get-
do.
So,
But I'm saying
I
is
looked
for
at
a
so
flat
much
Earth
science.
would be a
Okay,
biblical thing.
Let's back up. Let's forget all that.
Right?
Yeah.
Since
So that
since
would be
we're
biblical.
since we're on the subject, it just ironically comes up every
Oh,
episode.
God.
I try not to steer it.
No,
But
you
let's
try
just
not to,
talk
but
about-
every time it comes up somehow.
Maybe I do steer it.
It's all right.
All right, let's talk about just one thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Water, does it curve or does it not curve around the world?
It does curve around
It has
the
to.
world.
Right? It has to be a perfect curve around the world. It must. If you take still water,
Okay.
otherwise there's no way you could have a globe. It's like 75% water. If you look at it, it's water wrapped around a sphere.
It
So
is.
water, if you agree, any large distance of water must represent the sphere. It must. In other words, if you were to measure 50 miles of water, it must show 50 miles of curvature, which is 8 inches per mile squared, according to every physicist or whatever mathematician or. There are countless. You could just literally you could spend the rest of your life watching videos of people on YouTube who have used lasers over water. Lasers don't bend; they're not affected by gravity. It's light. You can just point a laser over 50 miles of water, take your boat out, and it should be impossible to see that laser on the other end. It should be impossible. That's an impossibility. That on a round Earth, it can't. It
Well, you can
cannot
take
even happen.
binoculars and watch a boat move away from you, and then you'll start to just see the mass, and then you see the top of the mass.
That's
and then you
completely
see
wrong.
Yeah.
So
you can do
so
it. You can do it
no,
yourself.
you
get
can't.
A friend,
No,
get a
you
boat,
can't.
Put a,
So you're
put a
going
flag
off
on it
of
and go
you're
that
going
way.
off of you're going off of what you've been told. If
Well,
you
it's not.
actually if you actually were to look up video after hundreds of videos, they take boats that are 30, 40 miles out, impossible, absolutely impossible. They should be like 1,400 feet below the curb, and then they zoom in right to the water washing on their hull.
I saw
Okay.
that with the telescope.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I
it's-
mean, that
it's
may
with
be,
telescopes.
but here's the
Because I was
thing
thinking
too.
the same thing. I'll go with our binoculars.
If you,
These dudes went out with a
believe
telescope.
that everybody else on the planet that is involved with NASA and space and everything is deceiving you, then what's to say that all of the stuff you see on the internet
doesn't matter.
that has to do with flat Earth
It's
is
irrelevant.
not doing it either?
Well, wait, that's
So
hard.
you can't really
When-
say,
when
well,
you
everybody
have-
on. Now, I've met astronauts actually, and they've said, I've seen Earth from the International Space Station with my own two eyes.
What are they supposed to say?
Which astronauts?
They're, dude, like, what do you mean? What are they supposed to say? If somebody
What are
asks
they, what are
you
they supposed to say?
something and you tell them,
If you
who's
if you look,
behind it
if
all,
you look
man?
at the space, okay, so here's the thing. You just
Like,
gave
who-
credibility, but first off, here's the thing. This is what you don't realize. If you take any one thing that you're talking about and not switch, the problem is the moment someone tells you, well, the science says, if you actually do the science, it's the opposite. And what happens is you switch gears, and then you go, okay, so maybe you can zoom in on a boat. Okay, well, that's wrong. Well, maybe you can't observe the bend of water. Okay, well, that's wrong. But astronauts have told me, well, hold on. Let's go back today and let roughly intelligent people, fairly intelligent people, analyze all the video of the moon. They even found here's a problem. There was a guy named, he made a documentary called,
So it's a hologram or something?
there's a documentary called
Oh, man.
A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. And if you haven't seen that, it's life-changing. It's a life-changing video you can watch. It's like 45 minutes. This guy was writing NASA because NASA lost all the telemetry data and all the video of us on the moon, which is the greatest accomplishment of mankind. It's just coincidentally that they lost every reference to it. NASA lost all video and all telemetry data. That's okay. We'll assume that happened. And this guy kept writing, saying, send me this guy. He created the documentary called A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. And he says, can you send me some data? They sent him a box of like clippings from the editing room floor. And
Okay.
he went through it, and they made a big mistake. It was them faking the moon landing, and it became a documentary called A Funny Thing Happened. It's Buzz Aldrin. It's him. He can't deny it. It's the other guy that was with him, and they're up in low Earth orbit, if it truly is an orbit, if it truly or whether it's propulsion technology, we don't know. And they're faking the moon.
They're in orbit.
They're absolutely faking the moon. They're faking it. If you can watch that and tell me, nah, Bobby, he can't even
faking the
deny it.
moon.
They're
They
faking the Earth.
accidentally
Sorry.
sent
Faking the Earth.
Faking the
them
Earth.
faking.
Yeah, it's interesting. I watched it, and after that, I was convinced we never went to the moon.
Yeah.
But
Well,
Well,
but
even
on top of
before
that,
that-
let me tell you, I can pull up video right now. I can show you in 1965 an EVA moonwalk where they said, "Oh, this is real footage." That the Earth said, "We're at the moon," and the guy turned his helmet. He turned his helmet. Now this is clearly stop motion, but back
Okay.
then we bought it as real. We said, "Oh crap, that's real." Even in sci-fi, even sci-fi directors know you can't turn a helmet because in a pressurized suit, you could only turn a helmet if the metal seals, the rings, had space between them. If they had bearings, they'd have to have a bearing system. You can't have that because then you couldn't have a pressurized suit. It's impossible. But what happened is they got too creative. The stop motion guys didn't understand this, and the astronaut goes, his whole helmet turns, and he goes, but you could tell it's stop motion. You could tell, but you have cognitive dissonance, and your brain goes, nah, I know we've been to the moon. I know we have. Okay, he did turn his helmet. And it's like, no, bro, you can't turn your helmet in space. You cannot do that. That right there is an absolute impossibility. Any physicist will tell you you can't turn the helmet. You can't, but here it is. Imagine my head is the spacesuit. So my point is, for 3 years, I laughed at my family member. I laughed hard. And I was just like, man, I'm sorry. I love you, but you're crazy.
Yeah.
All right. But let me ask you this. But here's the thing I find: everyone I argue about actually hasn't researched They'll go, oh no, I have, I grew up my whole, no, forget that. Have you taken a month of your life and actually watched videos and listened to the other side?
You can't take any video whatsoever on the internet as truth. If you can't take what our space program has done for years and years and years with the most amazing minds ever, you can't take a YouTube video for
That's
truth.
Right. I 100% agree. I 100% agree. 100%. So what you do, that's what I did. So what you're saying.
But you can ask someone, have you seen Earth from space? And they say, man,
no.
I'm here to tell you now.
You got to watch a movie called
I did.
Capricorn 1. You got to watch the movie called Capricorn 1.
What's a movie?
It is a movie, but it's a movie that completely explains what would happen if you were an astronaut and you thought you were trained to go in space.
Soon you're going to be able to find out for yourself. Because is Elon Musk in on it?
Yes.
You think he's in on it as well?
Yes, because his video's faked.
Okay,
we proved it. It's already been proven.
Okay, so you've proved that the launch of the dude in the car and all that's all fake.
I can prove it to you. You wouldn't have a doubt in the world.
Okay.
So they just the first Chinese billionaire booked a flight. They're gonna start. He's gonna start sending passengers, people to the.
So no matter what, somebody's gonna have to build a rocket underground, with nobody knowing, getting material and manufacturing this thing with nobody knowing.
Still wouldn't prove anything.
Are you gonna believe that guy if he flies up into space, comes back down, and says, "Hey man," and you can be like, "You're in on it. They got you too." So where does it end? Like where does it end?
It ends with your own personal observation.
Yeah, but do it, and then nobody's gonna believe you. All
That's
those
why,
flat earthers are gonna think you're a moron, dude.
No.
If you go up there and say, "I saw it with my own 2 eyes," they're gonna say, "No, you didn't. You're in on it. They're paying you."
Right.
And so.
The longest bridge in the world is on Lake Pontchartrain. It's 28, or it's either in the world or in the U.S.
I think
it's 24 miles. It's 24 miles, which should have, if I remember right, I'm terrible with numbers. I can remember everything but numbers. Should have like 584 feet of curve. It's perfectly straight. It's so straight. Now you understand this is over water.
Yeah.
And water must observe perfectly. Land, not so much. Land you can have mountains, you can have elevation change. It's land. Land can be bent and then keep that. But water, every experiment over water, and this is the beauty of it, is you can do it yourself. So the only verifiable truth that you have that the earth is round is secondhand video, which I say is the fakest video of all. If I use my senses and look at the most real video, it's the guys out there taking a telescope, which clearly has no CGI, zooming in, which I don't even know how you'd fake that. That would be like the hardest feat in the world of CGI. And it's done countless times by poor people. Countless times by people like you and me who don't have $100,000 to go pay a CGI team, which is what it would take to generate that fake video. Yet I'm just saying, I'll leave it at this, is that you and I can go measure. I'll give you another example. There's photos across Lake Michigan, the Great Lake, of Chicago on the other side. It's roughly 50 miles across. 50 miles should have 1,400 and something square feet. I've seen this in a few times. That city you should not be able to see the skyline at all.
It's a fake. It's a fake picture.
So if we went there and could take that photo, if I go there and take that photo, you're gonna say it's fake? That's what you'll say?
No, I'm just saying there are people that went and took a photo of and saw the earth with their own 2 eyes, and you believe them or no?
No, you wouldn't believe them, because the reason why is that they have children, they have families. See, here's the thing. If you knew anything, the biggest argument I hear is that you couldn't keep that quiet. You couldn't maintain that lie.
Drama, it is pretty big drama for no reason. Like, what would the reason be? Would there just be...
Oh, it's the biggest reason in the world. There's unquestionably more motive for that than any conspiracy in the world.
Okay. And is it religious?
It's twofold. Well, I could go fivefold. But
like, what would it be? Would it be religious? Would it be monetary?
Both.
Would it be
religion and money? If you have a secret,
the two,
and you can manipulate that secret, you can make ungodly amounts of money off that secret. For example, NASA alone. Let's leave out every other country's space budget. NASA's space budget is $52 million a day, and all they're doing is pumping out CGI, and it doesn't cost them $52 million a day. Now, if you I can tell you this. if we found out the Earth were flat, and this is all hypothetical, and this is all just hypothetical, but you have to entertain it. If you found out the Earth were flat, I guarantee it, there'd be no more murder in the world. There'd be no more murder in the world. Let me give you an example of why.
Well, then there'd be round earthers.
Maybe.
Just running around.
I don't doubt
You're a
it.
crazy round earther.
Unless the Earth were proven to be
It's
flat.
already
They killed
been
people for
proven.
that back
It's
in
proven
the
a long
day.
time ago. By boats sailing. They proved it a long time ago. Also, the sun, when it's over here, doesn't shine the same angle it does over here. It's like
I've been all those
like
videos you're
this.
talking about. I've been way down the path. I've literally looked at every piece of evidence for 3 years.
Yeah, I'm sure you
Crepuscular
have, man. You know,
rays.
yeah.
I'm talking about Pythagorean theory to measure the angles of the sun using equatorial mounts. I've been down. There's not an argument
Every
you can
rabbit hole.
have.
Yeah,
I've been down
I
every
understand.
rabbit hole, and I can absolutely
No,
tell
I
you.
believe you, man. I believe
What
you.
I can tell you is, if you were to go down every rabbit hole and you say, "All right, I'm gonna measure the surface of water," or "I'm gonna take photos of shit that I shouldn't take photos of," or "I'm gonna use Pythagorean theory to estimate," I'm telling you, they all substantiate a flat Earth. And that I'm telling you my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm telling you my opinion. I can't tell you anything as a fact. I only have my beliefs. But I will say this. Crone Gracie and Eddie Bravo thought everyone telling them the Earth were flat were lunatics. Let me finish. Let me finish the statement. I can absolutely tell you. I've heard Eddie's story, and I'm sure Crone's isn't much different.
Yeah.
I'm sure he just said, "Keep me the fuck away from that dude.
Yeah.
That dude's loony." All right. And then one day they heard it from enough people, because we tend to tell people we care about, and if you're wealthy or you're famous, or people tend to care about you more. It's like, and he got bombarded, and what happened is, anyone who actually does the research, like the people who are disbelievers that argue with you, they go, "Bro, I've got a fucking high school education. I know, but have you done the research?" The people that have done the research always come out and end up being flat earthers. And oh crap, there was one more thing I wanted to add in.
Why
It was
high school education.
well,
Because
college,
nobody's-
physicist,
you're not-
whatever.
not smart. And if you say, "Hey, he's being sarcastic,"
Again.
I know. I'm just saying, like,
I love you, bro. You
why
know
you
that.
hating on
You
me?
know I love you. Man.
Yeah.
You know.
Like-
All right. I want to make that
Jesus.
clear. And that I do not think I was you 3 years ago, and
Yeah.
it doesn't mean I'm smart. I'm not
Like
saying
what?
that. I'm just saying that I was you 3 years ago. I'm just saying you haven't been down the rabbit hole yet. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, here's a lot of other things too. Like, I know that you would say, "Oh, well, why wouldn't you want to know? Why would why not go down the rabbit hole?" Well, if you already had proof, and it's to me, it's somewhat of a asinine kind of take on things with a flat Earth, because I am not religious, and that's where you take. That's when it all flips. It all
Yep.
right.
Yep.
And then you take
I became
faith
religious.
and those things into account, and then it changes things. So, it is what it is, man. Whatever you've gone down the rabbit hole, but I've got better things to do that are slightly more positive, a little less, confrontational, things like that. You just kind of chill
I
and
agree.
relax.
I agree.
You just kind of do whatever.
It's okay,
I
guys.
respect it.
when you
that.
no,
Absolutely,
when you
it's okay.
like I like to just chill, and think about things that are
But-
just kind of
But you can have this
You know,
conversation.
happening
with good
now,
baby
friends.
ducks
yeah.
and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
I'll have this conversation to see who my friends are. I
Yeah.
will. I honestly
Yeah.
honestly, I'll see. Delete me. I don't give a fuck. You're all fake friends on Facebook
No,
anyway.
it's
I can
never-
have this
That would
conversation.
never happen,
Dude,
man.
I'm your friend on
we're here in
Facebook.
real
What the
life.
heck?
I'm just saying.
I
I don't
respect
care
everybody's
if my
views,
count
man,
goes
and-
down on Facebook.
Yeah,
I don't
and-
fucking. Who
and I'm
cares?
not offended by anything, or I can be persuaded, and I can be through those types of things. But like I said, when you have other focuses in your life, and you just tend to focus on those things,
Right. Absolutely.
and then you just kind of focus on those things, and you're kind of like, man, you know what, I really want to check it out, but kind of doing something else right now, or
Yeah,
whatever.
like life
And then
just
it gets
hits
to
you.
a point where sometimes you're up late at night and you're like, damn man, let me check this out for real, and see, and then you're just bombarded.
Right.
I mean, literally, you can go to the internet and be like, oh man, this giant shark just ate a boat or whatever, and you're like, oh really, it ate a boat? And then you check it out, You know,
It's like a piece of
And then, well, now
Somebody
there's giant
date a
squid,
boat or
and there's
whatever.
giant squid, and there's mermaids out there,
And there's
you know
all
what I mean?
sorts of things.
So
Like,
you're
there's
finding all this crazy
mermaids
shit out
washing
there.
up on the shore and stuff like that. And you're like, dang, check out those bones, man.
Right.
You know,
This
and
But
it's
what
a
affects you?
mermaid.
Fake.
What affects you daily, right? Like, I mean, I'm all
Yeah,
about,
what
like,
affects you daily on a daily basis?
Hold on.
Right now, it's
Hold on.
changing diapers.
I just want to say this.
He's like, no, this affects me.
Flat Earth would be the biggest
mind fuck.
affector
Yeah,
of
That's the
everyone
biggest mind
daily.
fuck out there
and,
right now.
And everyone should have an interest in it. They
Yeah.
should. And I just think that everyone should go down that road.
I
That's
don't
all
think
I'm
it's
saying.
Well,
that
when
we
is
don't-
it gonna-
I don't
Would
think
be
it's that we don't
life-changing.
have an interest. I just think it's what he's trying to say. Like, it's just the things that we're focused on right now in our life.
Now there
Like,
are
we're
yeah,
not-
there are
we
people
can't just look
like
at it
everybody
all the
has
time,
a place.
like,
Everybody
research it,
has.
you know what I'm saying?
I accept that everybody has a place. Everybody has a job. Everybody has their own contribution, right? You've got people that are just absolutely amazing and smart and just completely their brains work completely out of it perfectly, right?
Smart. But
And
then
then
you
you've
have
got
the Kardashians.
dipshits, and then you got like everywhere in between.
Then you have the Kardashians,
Yeah.
right?
And so
Oh my
I
God.
let
But
that
they
like
have
my
babies.
doctors. I trust that
okay.
my
Oh my
doctor.
God.
When I get injured and I break my arm,
you trust the
Yeah.
doctor.
I trust my doctor because
but they-
he has done. Now they're all in on it. My doctor, he's going to plant something in my
Yeah,
arm.
shoving
like, whatever.
pills down
if he
your
does, then you know, eventually I'll figure it out and be like, holy crap, there's a
There's a button
chip
in my
in there.
arm.
you know, and I'd be like, it must have been that doctor. But until then, you have a place and you have everybody has their job, and you're like, dude, you know, you're doing a great job of what you're doing. Tell me what you found out. And these astronauts are like, dude, the Earth is round. I could see it. I went up there, and I personally, my dad was an amateur astronomer. I have a telescope in my backyard. I look at the sky on a regular basis.
Really?
I used to do that.
And not as much anymore. It's just been real busy, new baby, that type of thing, and you know, new fiance and all that. But when I would look with my dad, he would take me out in California. We would go out and in the deserts, you know, and he would show me the stars. And I would see satellites going across, and I'd be able to look at them and track them. And we looked directly at the International Space Station. Right, you look right at it, and you see it floating across, and it
Well, it flies
whizzes
across
by.
really
Right, it
quick. It
goes
whizzes
pew,
by,
right,
yeah.
it whizzes by. But you
Looks
can
like a
shutter
little
it, and you can take a photo of it. But you can also
That's cool.
track it. Like I have a tracking device on my telescope where you set it to
That's a nice
this, and you just
telescope.
watch,
Jeez.
and it tracks as it moves, right? Because everything's moving, everything's spinning, right? And so,
Well, that's your assumption.
okay, well, the only way that, you know, even then, to make it flat, it would have to be spinning. So physics says cube or ball, right, and everything's equidistant apart from the center. If it was spinning like this, it would start to flatten out and, you know, be disc-like, but it would still have to be spinning.
Much like the Earth would have to be an oblate spheroid instead of a perfect circle.
It's not, because if you took
66,600 miles an hour it's spinning at. And Neil deGrasse Tyson even says it's an oblate spheroid.
It's
Yet
not.
every photo. Well, Neil deGrasse Tyson says
I know,
it's
he's
wrong.
definitely.
He's wrong, obviously. But he says it's an oblate pear-shaped spheroid. Yet every photo of Earth we have is a perfect
Round globe.
sphere.
Well, it's for
Or Neil
you know,
deGrasse
our
Tyson's
eyes.
wrong. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Could be wrong.
Yeah.
Could be wrong. I don't know.
Hey,
he's
yeah,
a
I
theoretical
don't
physicist.
disagree
Those
with
guys
going
have
down rabbit
educations.
holes and doing all those things. But when I look at that, and then we look at, you know, religion and things like that, there is a big drama for such. Like, the drama is too enormous.
For flat Earth.
For
No,
religion.
for anybody, for our tiny planet. The drama
For anything.
is too enormous. The scale of the universe is such a thing that Earth, unless you're religious, right, and that has to be the factor, right? The drama's too big. Why?
I wasn't
what?
religious,
The drama's too big. For
I wasn't
our little
religious.
thing.
I wasn't
I know,
religious.
but what I mean is the drama of religion, the you know, everything about it is very.
You had to convince
It's just too much going on for.
you had to
for what?
convince an agnostic that the Earth was that the evidence leaned more toward the Earth being flat than it was being round, and having. And I honestly think that it's the biggest conspiracy of all time, and that it's the greatest lie of all time, and that you owe it to yourself you owe it to yourself to research it. I think you do. I think you owe it to yourself to research it because it would change your life. Just like you say, let's blow past whether it is or not.
Yeah.
And let's say hypothetically.
Okay.
Hypothetically.
Okay.
Let's say if your research proved to be definitive that the Earth were flat, you're saying it wouldn't change you a bit today? It wouldn't change you at all. Wouldn't change anything. Do you think it wouldn't affect? If anything else, I would think you'd be wanting to share that, because if you could just show that to other people, it would change how they're living their lives. I have 2 family members who have relatively.
So it's 2 now.
Oh, no, I'm going down a different road. So you're making assumptions.
No,
Assumptions are
because
bad.
you said you said 1 before.
No, 1 that was trying to tell me the Earth was flat.
Oh, okay.
But I have 2 that I know their whole outlook. They're pessimists in life. They think that life is just. They think they're snuffed out at the end.
Yeah.
They just say, well, you're just lights out. Well, wait a minute. If the Earth were flat, you absolutely wouldn't believe that, and your quality of life would change. Now, I'm not saying cling on to the Earth being flat because all of a sudden you'll be happier. But I can tell you this: if it came out that the Earth were flat, and then you're like, let me go a little bit. Is there actually a dome over us? And then you start researching, it's like, holy shit, there's actually a dome?
Well,
and then you're like, there is a grand creator. And then you're like, wait a minute, I better go back and read the Book of Enoch because all
gonna
this
be the
lines up
one?
perfectly.
Who's going to be the one to bring back the photos? And everybody believes. Who's going to be that guy?
But you don't need
Who
photos.
is that guy?
All you need
No,
to
I
do.
mean, there's no proof anyways. So you said when it comes out, but there is none because it's the same end. If you say there's no proof of the globe, there's no proof of flat.
Well, no, I didn't agree
There's
with
no
that.
proof of flat. There's no proof. So what I
said
mean
there
is
proof
like,
of flat. You're
where's
the one,
that picture at?
Well, didn't you just say pictures can be faked?
Well, yeah, but where's the picture of somebody claiming that that's the Earth? Like, where's that photo at? Like, where's the photo
All
that we
you
go,
have to
that's
do is
CGI,
to
it's flat.
substantiate the Earth is flat.
But where does
is
that
measure,
photo, where is it
is take
we need
one
a
of
picture, though.
All you
Just
need
like
to do,
flat earthers need a photo. But we've got lots
Chris,
of photos.
Photo of the
all
edge.
you have to do
Where's
is
the
take
photo?
one of a million photos or measure. So you could snuff the whole argument by going out and measuring with a laser over a lake, or trying to take a photo and verify. There's like a million photos you're not supposed to be able to take. A million. There's more than a million. They're endless. There's like endless photos you're not supposed to be able to take.
Okay.
Because the curvature of the Earth tells you. Now, I've
Sure,
even watched
I'm
news
with you
channels.
on that, man. Like I'm all about physics and science and proven theory and all those things. But where's the photo? Like, let's go out and take a picture of the flat Earth with the dome and whatever else is going on, and let's see it. And then once that happens,
But you don't want.
I'm on board.
Didn't
But
you tell
then-
me earlier that you can't use a photo? You just said earlier.
well,
that
no, you
use a
can't.
photo.
No, I didn't. I said you can because we have thousands of photos of Earth pre-CGI. It's a globe, right? And before CGI. Before any type, I mean,
Well, photo is easier to fake than CGI because you don't have to fake every frame. It's
It's-
CGI is nothing but thousands of photos.
well, sure. But what I mean is the photo has to be produced, and who's going to produce that photo? Those who have capabilities of going into space. NASA, SpaceX, private
Well, I can produce
companies.
There's another company.
There's another guy, you got China and stuff, and then when that happens and they go, phew, right,
Yeah,
they go up there,
Branson's doing
and
it
they're
with
like,
Galactic,
wow,
whatever.
check this out, right?
Got it.
Gotcha, and they bring it back down. Who's that guy? And who's, like, wouldn't he be on it too?
And he'd have a secret.
You know,
Like, wouldn't
I don't
he
know.
be
I don't
in
know.
on it
Let me
too?
let me share a few
Wouldn't
more things
somebody
with you.
have hired him to
Because I
do
research this
that?
all day, every
Because,
day. Look,
You know, I mean,
did you know? A lot of people think Jim Carrey's loony right now, right?
I don't really agree with some of the things he said
So
lately.
you think he's fairly intelligent?
But he's an absolutely intelligent person.
Did you know
but
he's absolutely
his socialistic views are a little off, but
I don't know if you know this. He's absolutely trying to tell the world his number one agenda right now. In my opinion, what he's trying to tell the world is the Earth is flat, and I can prove it in a matter of seconds. What if you learned that? What if you learned that he were? What if you
guess
found out
not.
that Shaq thought the Earth was flat? What if you found out
I don't know, man. I don't know. Shaq's probably doesn't. I don't know if he.
No, hold
has
on.
a great
do you
education.
Think, do you
know,
think
he's
these
kind of
people are
just a
coming up
funny,
with this?
talented
High school
guy?
education.
Here's
He
the
has a
difference.
master's.
They're running in
probably
elite
does.
circles.
He has
He's
like
probably
2 or 3.
brilliant.
The difference is they're running in elite circles. They're not speculating. They're being told by elitists. This is my theory.
Okay.
Is that they're being told by elitists, hey man, when you're running with the most powerful people in the world, you know the truth. But there's rules. You can't come out like if you watch Jim Carrey's latest film. It's a private film where he doesn't say a word in it. It's on YouTube. It wasn't released on film. It was just on YouTube. And it's just him walking through the desert with a NASA hat on. You can barely see it, but if you look, it is clear. Anyone can see if you look. But it's so dingy, they don't want you to see. And then there's a reference to Edgar Allan Poe, The Raven.
Okay.
All right. There's this song called Nevermore playing, and he kills a raven and he eats it. And then there's this guy that's he found and he helped him. He feeds him part of the raven, right? Okay. And then it's a very short film, like 10, 15 minutes. And the guy's walking away. The guy he helped, and the guy says, "I don't know anything. I'm lost." And Jim Carrey, you don't even know it's Jim Carrey. It's such a good. Shaggy, they dirty. You can't even tell it's Jim Carrey. You wouldn't know unless you go out and verify it is actually Jim Carrey. And he hands the guy a snow globe. And he just says, so the guy says, "I know nothing, I'm lost." And he hands the guy a snow globe. He reaches in his little bag, and he gives the guy, and he walks away. And that's the whole film. But every time Jim Carrey goes out on stage, he'll have a shirt on that says, like, last one he said was like, "I need more space," and it's a guy in a spacesuit. And then the one before that, like a year earlier, he goes out, he's got the moon in a square. And then if you look at like Dumb and Dumber, there's that part where he goes, "We went to the moon," and then there was he was on I think it was the Letterman show. He cracked up, like someone brought up the moon landing. He just died laughing. He's like, "You really think we went to the moon? You really think?" And this isn't joking.
Yeah, I know.
He's
Everybody
being
thinks
serious.
he's joking, or whatever.
No, but he's been trying to tell the world for years about this conspiracy, and it's not just him. The thing about it is they have access to more resources than we do, whether you believe that or not.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, for someone like Eddie, all I'm saying is for someone like Eddie Bravo or someone like Crone Gracie to come out and take all the ridicule they're going to take, and you know they've lost. Like, they had to listen to people that would otherwise be fans, call them ignorant, retards, and they knew that persecution was going to happen. They knew it, and just like I know the persecution is going to happen, I don't care. I did the research.
Yeah.
I have my belief. But okay, look, no more flat Earth. We're done.
Okay.
Anunnaki.
Dang, he's just.
Anunnaki. Sorry.
You're going back to flat Earth.
No,
that's not Anunnaki. You
No,
realize
but that's
that,
something
right?
I was gonna
Yeah,
go
But I was
into
gonna say
as
that,
well.
right? Okay, so when
you
you
know?
look at Zacharias Stitchin, right, and his the template or the
Which
picture,
I'm a
right?
huge fan of. So before
Right,
Flat
so
Earth, I was
his-
Anunnaki. I was
But
all
Anunnaki's
Anunnaki.
got all the planets, and
Yeah.
that was amazing. That was an
Yeah.
amazing find.
So you're asking me how can that two tie together? Very
Yeah.
easily.
Right.
Very easily. It's the
They're
perfect.
round.
It's perfect. It's
So
absolutely
would you be
perfect.
saying that the Anunnaki would be the creators of the dome?
No.
Okay.
No.
you
Are you
familiar
asking
with
me to
the
go down this
Anunnaki?
role? Are you asking me to go down this?
No,
So
it
here's
was
another
a
thing I
question.
do
I
believe
didn't know.
also. I believe that the vastness of our multiverse is such that anything can happen
Oh yeah.
in any moment in many different universes. So I'll tell you what. That being said, mathematically, anything and everything can happen.
More than once. It could be
So
happening.
it could be happening. Bobby could be a Mexican in the other.
I like the thought of Mexican Bobby. I like it. Hola.
I could
He
be.
own his own
like
taco
it.
Lou.
Hell
Yeah,
yeah, see,
I'd
that's what
have
I'm
a
saying.
taco
He
Lou.
probably
I'd be doing
would.
that.
And
I'd be
so,
totally
and
chill.
so that being said, anything is possible, and so I don't knock that. I'm definitely an anything is possible kind of person. So, but when religion comes into it, only one thing is possible, which is
Whatever your belief,
Whatever
whatever that
your
person's
belief
belief
is.
is, right?
that single belief
So-
system means that that's the only thing possible.
So if you're
That's
an
impossible.
if you're an Anunnaki fan, and I spent years, literally years, watching video after video after video after video, and every Zechariah Sitchin, speech that he gave, or I listen to all the audiobooks. I don't have time to read, but I do listen to audiobooks constantly when I work constantly at tasks, painting or whatever I'm doing, and I listen to audiobooks. So I'm well versed with Zechariah, not Zachariah. For all you people who claim to be well versed, that call him Zachariah, Z-E-C-H, Zechariah Sitchin. So Zechariah is a Russian-born Jew who was fluent in Hebrew and all these other things, and he was big into the translating Sumerian texts, and he claimed that which was the first civilization on Earth, right? That was that was it, our first written history, and they just sprang up out of nowhere, and they had all these stories of what he translated to be. They wrote about like these aliens that came from, and they created man, right? It was really it was really dope.
Read about it.
I was far into it, and then when I started contemplating flat Earth, I was like, holy shit, wait, this can't be, because this contradicts everything I know about the Sumerians. But then I started listening to the Book of Enoch, and I listened to it 4 times now, and I'm sure I'll listen to it 10 because it's the most fascinating book I've ever listened to.
Now, this is a translation by a human.
Yeah, because I don't speak
what I mean is
it's
a translation.
Like a fucked up language, right? That's like GE hyphen ET.
Right.
Some fucked
Definitely,
up.
I understand that, but my point is it's a translated thing. So
yeah, but it doesn't
come from the creator or writer. So
yeah, but
technically you can't believe
it's not really a disputed translation. Just like this, just like Zechariah Sitchin's translations of the Anunnaki aren't really disputed. There's not people out there. I mean, the thing about text is if you study, and I've actually went out and kind of studied how computers reverse engineer languages, because what happens is there's the way they do it. It's actually very easy for a computer to pick apart most languages because all languages use the same words and the same frequency. In other words, like, let's just say and this is an example, and I could be wrong on this one, but it's just an example because I don't remember, but I remember reading about it. Let's just say and is the number one used word. It's used every 5th word, and this and that and this and that. When you take the English language and you do that, and you take the frequency of words, and then you take another language and you match those frequencies, you have just deciphered 80% of the language, and then.
Are you talking about inflection and things like that?
No, not inflection, not intonation. We're talking about just frequency. Because you can apply this to written language as well. Okay. It's very easy for a computer or even a person to deconstruct the language. It's people don't argue about about deciphered languages. There's not, because first off, there's usually like hieroglyphs that kind of agree, and then you're reading it and you're like, oh yeah, that like they have an image that kind of agrees with what it's saying, and we were right with our little 80% rule, and now we can fill in the gaps with the 20%, and then when we apply that 20% to other text, it makes sense. So it's very easy actually to decipher a language accurately. That's not argued. People don't argue about that. Scientists, if you're a fan of science, science confirms that it's very easy to deconstruct a language.
But add what's uniquely your own in there.
Yeah, like it's not going to be 100% accurate, but I think it's fairly. If you're a mathematician, if you agree in math and you agree in science, then you'd have to say that it has 95% accuracy. What they're talking about in the Book of Enoch, even if you took 80% accuracy, even if you took 70% accuracy, if you took 60% of what he said is truth, it would be absolutely mind-numbing. It's so mind-numbing that I can't stop listening to it, because he has science in there that is he shouldn't know about. Like shit, he's saying shit in the Book of Enoch that's like, wait a minute, there's no way 2,000 years ago they could have had knowledge about that. But the way I took it is this: when you start studying Zechariah and then you add in the Book of Enoch and you put the two together and you say, well, the Book of Enoch refers to the fallen angels that came down and corrupted, man, as the watchers, right? They were 200 angels that were assigned to watch over Earth, but then ironically, the Anunnaki had 200 scientists, or 200 astronauts that came down and populated our Earth. Now here's the thing: I got to thinking about this, and it's my own theory, and other people have theories. I just haven't looked at them, but I just kind of came up with my own. If the watchers, let's call them, these angels, what have been translated to angels in the English language, decided to take the children of God. They found them so beautiful that they took them as their own and had babies with them, right? Had children with them. they couldn't come down and tell the truth. We're not unintelligent. We're essentially the same intelligence we have today. We're not stupid. You can't come down and go, hey, listen, I'm here to watch you. There's this grand creator. I'm not supposed to intervene, but I'm going to intervene because you're hot as fuck and I'm going to have a baby with you.
Okay.
You can't come down and say that. Now, what you could come down and say is, hey, I'm a space traveler and I just came from like billions of miles away. We look pretty compatible. What do you say we bump some uglies? You know, that could happen. I'm just saying, as crazy as that sounds, first off, you'd have to be a fan of the Anunnaki to entertain this. Because if you're not a fan of the Anunnaki, then none of this makes any sense whatsoever. But I'm just saying that if angels were to take the Son of God as their wives, right? They couldn't do it in an honest fashion. There would have to be deceit. There would have to be deceit. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. And that's the only thing that didn't make sense, because everything else, like, and I've listened to so much of Zecharia Sitchin. For example, here's an interesting thing. Zecharia Sitchin said that all the Anunnaki they refer to themselves as numbers, right? Like, don't quote me on the numbers, but like you'd be number 1, I'd be number 2, number 3. They all had they used numbers, but they used a sexadecimal system based on 6, right? I think it's called a segadecimal, sexagesimal. That's what it is, sexagesimal system, which means it's a base 6. We use base 10. I found that interesting that they would say that, and then, you know, the sign of the devil would be 666, because that's kind of sexagesimal, right? And then, and that all the science of the earth is based on 6. If you look at all the science of the universe, actually, it's based on 6. So I'll just give you a few examples. The tilt of the earth. If you like, science tells you it's 23.4. If you Google it, what's the tilt of the Earth? It's 23.4. Well, let's call that the y-axis, because if you have a y-axis, you have an x-axis. So from the x-axis, it's 66.6. Okay, 66.6. Well, what
the
does
tilt of the what? The globe?
The tilt of the Earth.
Okay, the globe. The tilt of the globe.
Yeah, that's science, right? That's what I'm telling you.
Okay.
All the bullshit says 66.6,
Okay.
right? So now let's say, what's the speed of the Earth? What's the speed of the Earth rotating?
So all the numbers make zeros are
well, the speed
irrelevant.
of the Earth is 66,600 miles an hour. That's the speed that it's going around the sun. Now, let's look at what's the curvature of 1 mile of Earth? It's 8 inches per mile. What does that break down to? What is that? That's 0.666 feet. Just ironically, it's
this is what we've been. People are telling us.
This is what Google will tell you, or any science book. 0.666 feet. But let's say let's leave the imperial system and let's go to the metric system.
Okay.
And let's take 1/6 of the curvature of the Earth. Ironically, a sixth. Ironically, now how ironic? We're going to take the circumference of the Earth and we're going to cut it into to 6 parts. Okay. 6. And let's go to the metric system. It's 666,666 meters. Just coincidence. Let's take the size of the moon. Let's take the diameter of the moon. It's 2,160 miles. 6 times 6 times 6 times 10. Well, that's coincidence. I understand. It is a coincidence. But let's take the diameter of the sun. It's 6 times 6 times 6 times 100. We could do this all day long. Did you know that science will tell you that our solar system has a tilt? Science, I didn't know this. I looked it up. I started going down this road. How many 6s are in science? The flat earthers call it Masonic science, because it's Masons that make the science. They're the one who give us the numbers, right? It's at 6 degrees. Who would have thought? I wouldn't have guessed it. I mean, the coincidence is just, I never would have guessed it were a 6, never. Like, I would have thought a 5 or a 7, maybe even an 8, but it's a 6. You take the speed of the universe. You take the speed of light. You take anything. Right. It all comes down to, ironically, that irony to me, if that's not a red flag for you, then you're never going to understand the flat earth argument. You'll never understand it. You're not even, it's so far beyond your comprehension.
So these numbers are based on science of spheres, right?
No, it's based on the science of the earth.
Was it a sphere?
No, it's not a sphere.
Well, then
you can take other spheres, then the numbers don't come into play. We're talking about measurements of the Earth. Okay. If you take another sphere, then it's not 0.666. If the Earth is not
a sphere, then where do these numbers come in?
I think your argument is, did the same numbers apply with the same size sphere? And the answer is no.
No, what I mean is, do the numbers apply?
I'm saying that the coincidental measurements of our sphere and the sphere of our moon and the sphere of our Earth. I agree. There is no sphere.
Well,
Science tells you all these numbers exist.
Well, so we're not believing in that science then.
I personally don't.
Are we not?
I don't. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that science. Okay.
We don't
I'm
believe in
kicking
that
the hell out of a
science.
dead horse.
Okay.
I think the 2 listeners we got are like, yo, man, give it a break.
Next story.
The 2 listeners, yeah.
Anybody want a donut?
But you went Anunnaki. I tried to give it a break early.
No, I think all that stuff's cool, man. I think that even, it's possible for a simulation and those types of being a simulated program and those types of things because of technology and the speed of it and all those things, So, I mean, everything can be and everything could be and everything might be. And, I just wait. I have my coffee in the morning and, and
Focus on the good
focus
things.
on some positive things. And then I kind of look at some things like that. And I spend some time on it because it's not something you should ignore. Because you are a part of the universe and you need to make sure that you understand what the heck's going on, right?
Right.
So I understand that, and I do. I look out there. I see it. I've seen the stars, and I've seen nebula with my own eyes. I've seen them. I've seen stars. I've seen planets with my own 2 eyes.
Yeah.
I see it.
And the
You
most
know, with my
powerful
telescope.
telescopes in the world. I've looked at those I've looked at those photos. Maybe they're faked, but they kind of are. They just look like little water droplets is what they look like. They're like the most
Well, I can
powerful
see
telescopes.
Venus. Actually, you can see, and just recently, Venus and Saturn were visible to the naked eye. You could see them, and if you got your telescope out, clouds cover came over the front of my house, so I couldn't get out there. But you can look at them, and you can see a spinning blue dot, bluish green. You can see the spinning. You can see things. You can actually see. I've seen rings around gas planets. I've seen them with my telescope. I've seen them, and I know why, and I understand why they coagulate and they become a sphere. I understand the science behind that. So
every amateur photo I can find of
but
Venus
you have to
is
not believe me.
basically
You'd have to
just
be like, dude,
like
you're
a dot.
insane.
It's
There's no way.
It's like a dot.
Like I've seen it. I've seen planets.
You've seen photos in
No, I've
science
seen planets
books.
with
Talking
my
about through
own
a
telescope.
telescope.
Like I look through my telescope and
Yeah,
I
I'm
can
not
see
disagreeing
the
with
planet.
that. But what you're seeing is a very blurry dot. Like I can pull them up right
Yeah,
now. I
I
can
can
look up like mad powerful telescopes.
Okay,
and
well,
they're just giving
are they
dots.
shining something out there? Is there some kind of
What's the planet you looked at?
Venus?
All right, I've got photos of Venus.
So let's
I
just
typed
say,
in
like,
amateur,
who's-
and they look like
I
dots
know, but
to me.
of course, but where's the dot
Amateur
coming from?
telescope,
Like,
Orion.
so is somebody shooting a
I've looked at like
It's-
NASA.
no,
website.
Planet Venus looks through a large telescope. This looks like a water droplet to me.
It does. It looks bluish
see it?
green. It just looks, it's very.
This is through a large
Yeah.
telescope.
Oh, if you
Yeah,
got the
that's
Hubble.
true. I
So
can
this
see it.
is your
that,
evidence
my
that we have a
$3,000
universe.
telescope can see that. I can see
Your
that.
face. He's
Yeah.
like, this is true.
Well, yeah,
and,
I mean,
you're convinced that this is all the
but
evidence
where's-
you need.
No,
that
is
that's
it a
not
hologram?
proof that,
Something
that
out
there's
there.
a
No, but
universe, though.
But is
That's
it proof
not,
of what, though? Is it proof that somebody's
What's going on?
projecting a hologram?
No, you've got the Hubble telescope out there. You got these planetariums. I mean,
Yeah, well,
there's
wait,
something
like-
out there.
Yeah, who's projecting this hologram?
But that's all in the Book of Enoch. Like if you were,
so
if
it tells
were
you
to-
who's projecting the holographic stuff that you can see with the telescope that you make with glass. Like you can just put the glass together and you can zoom in.
Have you ever been to the planetarium?
Yeah,
Where
I've
they
been to
do it?
planetariums a million
Where they put
times,
the
man. Yeah.
imagery on
So
the
we,
ceiling?
if humans could do it, a god a million times more intelligent.
Yeah, they
than
have
us
it
Well,
could
see,
Museum.
do it.
that's
Museum.
where the that's kind of where the line draws. Like
When I was
a
a kid.
god could go poof, and be like, here's
could.
Venus,
So
And this
so-
is Venus, but it's not really Venus. It's
I'm
not
not-
really a planet. I'm just pretending it's a planet for you to be like, that's not a planet. So what's the drama's too big.
The argument is this: is that if there were a god, he would want you to make your choices based on free will. And if he told you were in a cage,
Why wouldn't he? Why does he give us planets to look at then? Why doesn't he just have us floating out in the middle of nowhere just by ourselves? Why do we have to have
you
planets?
have to hear me out. And I would
Why
tell
do
you,
we
I would
need
explain
Saturn?
it.
Well, because it coagulated into gas farther out from the sun because it burns it off if it's too close and becomes.
But you see, the
molten
argument is
rock.
if you start speaking to someone about a flat Earth today, 2018. Let's go back 2,600 years ago to the time of Pythagorean, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Would you not say we have infinitely more tools than he had to prove the Earth is round or flat? I mean, I'd say we have infinitely more tools.
Sure, but the Earth
So that-
was proven it was round long before any of those tools came about, and this was just recent history before. This
It wasn't. The argument has never been settled.
This was before Galileo.
It's
before
never
these
been
things.
settled. The argument's never been settled.
Well, if it's never been settled, but I mean,
People have speculated, just like gravity's never been settled. It's still a theory. Gravity is not a fact. It's just a theory. Okay.
works to me.
I know. Buoyancy works the same way.
Well, space-time is is somewhat of a flat surface and acts as somewhat buoyant type movement.
You realize that you could explain that with buoyancy and density just as well as you could with gravity, right?
Well, okay.
You didn't just prove gravity. You proved buoyancy and
prove that
density.
it's
Did you know that an anvil
pulling
floats in
down.
Mercury? An anvil floats in Mercury.
Well,
It's-
yeah, that's because there are
That's because of
atoms
buoyancy
and, there are
and density.
things going on in that particular
should the
metal.
anvil should fall.
Well, the metal has certain properties and it doesn't allow it to.
That's a very scientific answer.
The metal has a property to it.
Kind of
just
violates,
like water does. And it's funny because when I go swimming, you're saying that I don't think about these things. When I
I'm
go
just
swimming,
saying-
I'm like, water's crazy.
What
And
you're
like, you look
talking
at
about-
water and you're like, this is tripped out, man. It's like water. And it comes off your fingers. It's like, this is amazing. It is. Water is pretty amazing. That the properties of it, frozen in a gas form, in liquid, it's pretty amazing. And so when you think of things that exist, properties of minerals and properties of things that exist, those properties are pretty killer. You've got mercury, for instance, that and those types of things. And so different properties allow for different things to happen.
I love how science explains it all. I do. I love
if you're
it.
buoyant, but I've never really dove into the buoyancy thing with gravity and all that. I know that
I know
some people
because
are
you
like, hey,
accepted science.
No. Well, there's another side to a story, and so, right? I mean, if you say it both works, then who's right, really? If you're like, well, if you could explain it through buoyancy, but it's somewhat of a stretch, I kind of think.
I just think when you start researching, you find out things that are well beyond coincidence. Did you know that 2 years before we had this first satellite, some sci-fi author who's very famous came up with, he used satellites in sci-fi, and he said what'll happen is at roughly 26,000 miles out, they'll get locked in this tidal lock. And this is all sci-fi. It was sci-fi. And then, ironically, 2 years later, we have satellites. Now, the guy he just made it up. He just made it up, but everything he made up, he's not a scientist. He was a sci-fi dude. Satellites. Do you know, hold on.
Everything comes from that, though. Any
I know,
idea
but
comes from
when you just
another
happen to
idea.
match
Back
the
and being like,
precision of his miles, when you just happen everything matched perfectly. I don't know if you know this, but the satellite that we send out that took pictures of Mars recently or whatever, or Saturn, whatever. I don't remember, Cassini or whatever.
Cassini.
It is an ion propulsion system.
Right.
Ion propulsion.
Yeah.
2 years prior, Star Trek made up the term and said, we're going to have ion propulsion. They just made it up. They just said,
all of
we're just
those
gonna
things
invent
from
it.
Star
And then-
Trek come from research done through
the
space
sci-fi writers are
exploration.
users.
They check things out and try to be as close and as accurate as they can to make it viable.
And that's made up because, what you're saying is made up because then I watched the interview of the guy who came up with the ion propulsion system. And he goes, well, what happened is, but see, you will jump to a conclusion.
Oh, maybe he got it from Star Trek.
He did get it from
good,
Star
then.
Trek.
So what? He got it from Star Trek. Thanks, man. Star Trek's like,
Gave
dude,
him a name for something.
I could do that, Star Trek. Like, that's
Yeah.
not just science fiction anymore. Like, that's pretty
Yeah.
crazy. Let me go check this out.
So it just
so
so happens that
could.
a guy came up with satellites and sci-fi, and then
Why the hell not? There's a
Werner
television
von
show
Braun.
came out, and he's like, man, let me try to see if I can
for
do
real,
that.
Yeah.
And then he went back to the drawing board and said, oh, man, let me check this out. Let me see if this teleportation could really happen. Well, it has happened, actually. You can teleport. You can teleport one.
You can
atom
already.
You can do it. They've done it from here to here, short distance through. They know that, things can go in two different directions at the same time, those types of things. So there's all sorts of things
Look at Jurassic Park, and they
You
brought
know,
back
yeah,
dinosaurs
man,
through
you
DNA.
just- yeah.
Nowadays,
So
now
if
they
you go to if
clone
it's a
it.
movie and some scientist goes, man, that's a crazy idea. Let me go
try to
Yeah.
really do that.
let me go mess around with this and see what's going on. And then they're like, dude, this works. Like, and now the fastest spacecraft in history
you know who
is
founded-
flying right now.
do you know who
Like,
founded
it's
NASA?
going 330,000 miles an hour, something right now, something like that. I mean, it just keeps getting faster because every time you propel, you know, it goes a little faster and stuff. And
The founder of NASA
Pretty
would
crazy.
arguably be Werner von Braun, a
Yeah.
German scientist, right?
Mhm.
Oh.
Germans.
In 1953, he wrote a
Yeah.
book called The
Yeah.
Conquest of the Moon. And he said,
in 53?
In 1953.
Okay.
And this was when the moon were 100 in 1953, ironically, the moon was
Uh-huh.
only like 170,000 miles away, opposed to the 278,000 it is today. It's
Okay.
changed by 100,000 miles, but that's science. You know, they keep just skewing the numbers. But back when
Or
it was
fixing them.
170,000 miles, Werner von Braun wrote a book called Conquest of the Moon, which you can download, and he said, using rockets, he said, we could get to the moon. We could in this 1953 book, assuming it's 170,000 miles away, assuming that. He said, we'd need a spaceship, a rocket, that is as tall as the Empire State Building, and it would weigh 800,000 tons. It would weigh way more than the
carry enough
Titanic.
fuel? Is
To
that-
carry enough
okay.
fuel. Yeah, that's what he said back then.
All right.
Yeah. But 13 years later, we're in space. Dude, we're at the moon. 13 years later. Science, bro. Science. The guy who founded NASA wrote a book and said we'd need enough fuel that would reach the height of the Empire State Building, and it would weigh 800,000 tons.
Back
you
then,
can download
they
it.
didn't have the
Version
type of
1.0
fuel.
always
Well, the
sucks,
fuel
though,
that they
right?
have now
We
is
got that much
probably
more
better,
efficient
has
in
different
13
properties
years.
than what they had then, and they've honed it down to a point where they don't need as much fuel. They fixed that problem from 1950 something. They fixed the problem, and they figured it out. They're like, damn, we're gonna need a big ass rocket.
Probably need some
And
ion
you got
propulsion.
guys
slap
sitting
in a little
thinking
bit of
shit up, and then
teleportation.
there's guys in another
one or two
room
satellites,
backing them
you're good
up,
to go.
thinking shit up. You know, I mean, people are sitting there just computing in their brains. How the hell are we gonna fix this? We need a rocket, this big problem, and they fixed it.
We can just make fuel burn
No, I mean different properties,
50,000
different
times
types
better.
of
Let's
fuels.
just do that. Let's take that. Let's
You
take
know?
the best German engineer in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take rocket propulsion, which hasn't changed much in 100, 200 years.
Okay.
And let's just make the fuel 100,000 times more efficient. That's a good idea. Let's do that. Sounds logical to me.
Did it really become 100,000 times more efficient, or
Well,
was
let's
it just
figure
a
out the real
few
number.
times? I don't know. Maybe it could have. You could theoretically fix that problem. You know, make a fuel or add things to it that makes that fuel burn more efficiently, and then make that happen. You know, I don't know. I'm not. Like I said, it's also the friend or family member that I have that was part of NASA. He explained to me just recently, probably a week ago. He's part of the jet propulsion and the rocket propulsion part of NASA.
Wow.
As a young kid. He's a brilliant mind. He's my fiance's brother. He just interned with them, spent 6 months, I think a year there, and he's finishing up school still. But he explained to me, like, you know, here at them guys at NASA, they don't want to hide anything. They want to, it's the opposite. They want to keep sharing, but nobody's believing what they're sharing and trying to debunk it because the preconceived notions of that NASA is just inherently bullshit. If you
NASA in
believe
Hebrew
that,
means deceit,
if-
just FYI. I don't know if you knew that, but that's true. We can pull
you
it
know,
up right. NASA means deceit in Hebrew. Just a
so
little.
that's what the creator of NASA
And then if
called
you take
it NASA to do that.
No,
or
I mean,
did
it's a-
No, it's
some
just a
higher
coincidence.
power
It's just a
go into
coincidence.
his
It's a
brain and be like,
And then if you take National Aeronautic and Space Administration, and you map every letter to the alphabet by its number, like, you know, it just happens to come out with 666. But it's coincidence. I know. It's all coincidence.
well, that's when you start believing in. I mean,
It's all coincidence.
lost
I
me.
know.
The
I know.
numbers
It's just-
themselves are religious, and so if you're not ready to go there, or if you haven't like accepted religion, then all the, some of that stuff just doesn't make sense to you. I understand that.
I mean, let's go down another. If you don't want to measure over the, let me just give you one for your brain to digest, because I think you can. I think you're intelligent. I think we're all intelligent enough to digest this. If you don't want to measure over water 50 miles, because that's the only way without science, right? Let me tell you what science is. Science is you reading a book in a college going, we know that the earth is round because muons decay, the rate of muon decay and all this stuff. I've watched the scientists' arguments. I've watched it. And I may not be able to quote it perfectly because I don't retain stupid shit. Like my brain didn't retain worthless shit. So when I listen to all the arguments, they're very scientific. But the one thing that you notice about all the science is it's all shit that you can't replicate. It's like, I reply back, have you ever seen a muon decay? Well, no, but science says that. Okay, so what I said is, how can I prove the earth is round or flat? There must be ways, obviously. There are ways.
I would start spinning those cryptocurrency gains on a rocket, man, and make that
You don't have
happen.
to. You don't have to. We can measure the flatness of the earth.
Well, you got to go out there.
Let me got to
get out there.
Chris. Let me
finish. I'm sorry, man.
Let me ask you, do you know what a gyroscope is?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's an instrument used for measurement. I mean, I'm not going to get all into the scientific part of it, but it's an
either a
instrument used
toy
for measurement.
or it's an instrument used in aeronautical flight.
Right.
Okay. And at flight, it's something mechanical that you spin up at a high rate of speed. And basically, the cool thing about a gyroscope is it actually violates the law of gravity. It's an interesting thing. It literally violates it. So you can take this gyroscopic instrument, which weighs a lot of money, and you could never a lot of weight. You could never lift it like this, never. But when you spin the end of it at a high rate of speed, you can just lift it like this. You can go. Now, that is irrelevant, the fact of that. My point of it is, I just think it's ironic that it violates gravity. I think that's ironic. But let's go further. What happens is, on any plane, whether it's a Cessna or whether it's a 747, they fire up a gyroscope and they use it to tell you. Now, this is a mechanical thing. It has no computer attached to it. We can verify. You can verify this. If you tilt left or right a little, it's used to tell you your plane's level. If you tilt a little bit left or a little bit right, the gyroscope shows you that because you gauge it at the ground level. Before you take off, you fire up your gyroscope and you gauge it. And because it's spinning at a very high rate of speed, even though the plane turns, it won't turn. It free floats. And if you turn a little bit to the left, it tells you, it shows you. It's like, bro, you're tilting, okay?
Right.
Would you agree it does that not only side to side, but front to back? It works in all directions. It stays perfectly flat with the earth, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now here's why thousands of pilots have become flat earthers. Thousands. More videos than you could ever watch. Because they know that if they tilt a little bit, that gyroscope's going to turn just ever so subtly. They know that. And then they started looking at the numbers of the Earth. 1 mile, every mile, it's 8 inches per mile squared. And they know that 500 miles per hour, they would have to constantly dip the nose down, constantly. They'd be like, oh, we're flying over the curvature of the Earth. Let me dip down. I got to dip down. I got to dip down. This has nothing to do with atmosphere. Atmosphere, how are you tying atmosphere into maintaining a height over the Earth?
Well, let's think of this way. Let's say a fly is on the back of your dash in the back of your car, and you go 100 miles an hour, and that fly flies from the back of your car to the front of your car.
Did it change the curvature of your car?
No, the car's not going, or the fly's not flying at 100 miles an hour.
This has nothing to do with speed.
No, that's atmosphere.
Leave speed out.
No, you take the.
We're not talking about speed. You're talking about speed. The argument. No. Chris,
it's atmosphere.
I think
it's an atmosphere. You don't just go out of the atmosphere.
Hold on.
Right.
You're talking about speed. I'm talking about physical dimensions. How did the physical dimensions of the car change?
Well, no, I'm not talking about that. You said that should the plane just keep flying? Is that what you're saying? It shouldn't.
Shouldn't
shouldn't-
the altitude that
you
it's
shouldn't
flying
have to
at?
change.
If you have a sphere,
Shouldn't
in a
you have to
plane-
keep going like this? Well, you don't, because there's an atmosphere that hits you, and you just continue.
Oh, okay.
to
Well,
go,
I agree
right?
with that. Well, let's
Right.
just say you're right. But the gyroscope should represent that.
Well-
The gyroscope was level when you're on the globe like this. Let's look at this. Look, here I am. Look, you're not looking. Here I am. Here's the round sphere.
Yeah.
The gyroscope was flat right here. It was flat.
Yeah.
Now, if I tilt left or tilt right, the gyroscope stayed straight. It went, hey buddy, you just tilted like this, but I'm staying like this. Now you're gonna say, but if I fly around the Earth like this, the gyroscope turns. Is that what you're saying? You're saying the gyroscope, because that violates the law of the gyroscope.
Wouldn't an airplane though, in comparison to the size of the Earth, be smaller than a flea?
Well, I mean, that's
Like
the thing. The
a
scale is
leg
huge,
on a
and
flea.
so the,
You know
Yeah,
what I'm
the
saying?
scale is
that's
very
kind of
huge,
how I
you
look
know,
at it.
and
The
that's how it
scale's
works.
so huge. It would be such such a small.
there's pressure,
No,
there's atmosphere.
no,
there's
because
things
they
that keep
fly
you in place.
2,000 miles. Let me tell you, do you not comprehend how much curvature that has to be? Any pilot
No, I don't.
can
The
see that.
numbers
You
throw
don't.
me
Okay,
off.
well, give me
Like,
a
yeah, the numbers
Okay,
are-
okay.
When you spit out the numbers,
All right,
it throws me off
give me a distance. Give me a distance. Do you want to know what it is for? Let's just say a halfway around the U.S. Halfway.
So from
No, do you want to hear what it isn't, but what somebody is saying it is what you're saying.
No, what I'm saying, science says it is.
Yeah, but science.
does
What I'm
science
saying is
say?
scientists are lying
flying
because
from
Earth's flat.
Okay.
California, LA to Hawaii, how much curvature?
Let
would
me
that
tell
be?
you.
We shouldn't talk about
Hold
any
on.
type of globes or any type of
No,
anything.
we're using science
Well,
right
I know,
now,
but
bro.
science
we're using
is
science.
relevant because scientists are all
It's what
against
you're
us.
using for your entire argument. Science. It is
Well,
relevant.
I know, I know, but it becomes
Now you don't
relevant
wanna
when you
use it?
agree that the Earth is round, though. That's when it becomes relevant because you're using statistics
Look,
that are based on
Look,
a round.
let me explain
thing.
something. 1,200 miles. That's not even. Let's just say 1,200 miles. That's like halfway. That's like from Florida to like Texas or something. Like it's
Okay.
2,600 miles across the U.S. or something like that.
There should
Yeah.
be some sort of curvature.
Do you want to know how much curvature there should be? Science says
How much?
180 miles.
No, I don't believe that.
That's science, bro. That's you can't
No.
argue with science.
No, what
That
I,
seems so
What I mean
much.
too is
That
that
seems
went
like a
back
lot.
before Galileo and back before those days where you can actually look out and see.
Now,
when
you
it
wanna
was
tell me in 180 miles.
proven, were there powers that be that are the most powerful people in the world now? Were they there then, or were they there back when dude had ruffles around his neck and was just checking
Well, they
things out?
say Pythagorean was the first Mason. That's what they say. And every astronaut's a Mason, Freemason.
I
and
should've
every
watched
Well,
the show
what I
about
mean
Masons.
is like no, but this isn't an astronaut.
That's
This is just
interesting.
I need to. I wish I had his name or those that had actually did. There were two people that proved that the Earth was round with instruments predating any
But they
type
didn't. I
of
looked at those. I
anything.
looked at all these people,
And-
and they can use the same math.
And
to prove
they
the Earth
actually
is flat.
predicted the circumference within 10% or 6% or something like that. That's pretty accurate. And then the second person that did, I don't recall his name. I have to look that up. But he also did it and came up with a better number, and came up with the circumference.
I know, the
And this is-
amazing part-
So if the
the-
power, if these people or this higher power or the people that are in the world right now that are the higher power or these people, whatever they are, were they there then? Was there an influence of them then? Because then they would have to tell the world that didn't have any technology to show anyone, didn't have social media, didn't have it. They had to take it in a wagon or a horse and take it across and get it in a boat and bring it over here and then tell somebody on a newspaper or whatever, in a piece of paper. Were they there then being like, dude, let's tell everybody it's round.
I think we need to rename this show the Flat Earth Show.
Yeah.
I was thinking
Oh my god.
Yeah.
conspiracies and
Well,
coffee.
well, it's cool. It's cool.
Let's all right,
There
Nikki.
are other topics.
Yeah, let's change topics because
Yeah,
I
there are
know
other topics,
people are
man.
getting
There are a
burnt
lot
out
of
on
cool-
this.
yeah.
And I don't think you're wrong, Chris. I don't. I'm a sarcastic fuck, and if you hang out with me, you obviously know that we've hung out too much. And
Yeah.
And I am. I use sarcasm. I apologize. And anyone I offend, it's my nature. It's how my dad brought me up. It's how my mom brought me up. I was taught with sarcasm. All right?
So when you call me stupid, you really don't mean it. You just
No, that's like love. If I
Yeah.
call you stupid, that means I love you so much that I feel the comfort level that I can say that. You know what I'm saying, bro? It means
Yeah.
like I couldn't say that to some stranger. I know we're gonna be throwing down.
This
but
dude's over here wearing a SpaceX shirt.
He doesn't call me stupid, but he said I look funky. So I mean,
I
guess
just don't.
I'll
I don't
take
love
it.
you that much. So
Yeah.
I've got
I
a
guess
cousin
not.
that works
we got it. We're working
Yeah.
on it. We're
Yeah,
getting there.
True.
Yeah.
So I'm a believer.
That's fine, man. That's cool.
Dang.
Whatever.
He's got a space
Yeah.
shirt on.
Yeah.
Nikki, how are you gonna?
It's all interesting.
You have to introduce the world to Kris Kofstad. How are you gonna do that? You gotta have a
I
question
think-
for him. Something.
Okay.
Something legit.
I lost my train of thought. Okay. Well, what made you want to run a jiu-jitsu school?
Oh man, to get out of doing construction, you know. I mean, it's not that I hated my job, but I loved martial arts more and knew that it was something that I wanted to do as a career, so that I can get away from the hustle and bustle of construction and business and all these other things. I just wanted to simplify my life a little bit and focus on some positive things and just kind of, you know, basically just simplify everything. Hack away that unessential bullshit in my life and just kind of focus on something positive. And then, you know, I had my daughter Chloe, and then that changed my perspective on things, and I wanted to really focus on perpetuating like really cool ideas to children. Letting kids understand that they're not just children, they can think deeper than that and really affect their lives. And that's kind of where, because I was just playful at heart. Like, kids come up to me and they just kind of stare at me and stuff, and I don't even, like, kids come up to me and they're just like, there's something about you. And I'm just like, dude, why are you standing behind me at the urinal? Like, kid's just waiting for me to do something stupid. He's like, when are you going to do something funny? And so I've noticed that kids kind of took to me a little bit, you know, and I started being really honest with them, you know, with kids. I mean, extremely honest. And then that just, I was like, man, I can really do something good, you know? And then so that just kept me going with the academy. And then seeing kids change, because they'd come in and they'd be bonkers, man. Kids, there are bonkers-ass kids.
Yeah,
and they're, you know, just completely incapable of focusing and all these other things. And then, you know, some months go by, 6-8 months go by, and I've implemented this, you know, this way, or this like really truthful approach. Like, I don't pull any punches, you know, with my kids. And then I start to see them change, and then it just motivates you even more. And you're just like, man, let's do this. Yeah, you build more confidence on how you're approaching this, and
It's a good feeling.
everything you're doing is right, and you're like, man, you know, you're making a difference. And so I just want them to make a difference, because when you think about everything that's going on right now, everybody's just against each other all the time, and everybody's like, you know, I don't know, man, you know,
Guns in
with
school?
guns and
Yeah.
racism and this, that, and this opinion and that opinion, all this other stuff.
Need more flat Earth.
I mean, we need
more
more. You need
jiu-jitsu.
more unity, you know, and so that unity, and it comes in a form that's very authentic and natural and stuff, you know, and that unity comes together. And the kids don't lie either. Kids are truthful to you too. You know what I mean? Like, you
They
know,
say kids and drunks are always
yeah. So
Brutally honest.
just that truth in general, not necessarily truth in is the earth flat or is it round. Truth in a more
like, hey, you look funky today.
spiritual sense, you know, not religious
They are
sense.
very-
When you don't get me wrong when I say that, spiritual. I believe that, you know, that information does not leave the universe, and when, you know, those types of things. When Bob's talking about, you know, you just don't die and whatnot. Hey, man,
Yeah.
anything could happen. But you have this. I talk to the kids about this stuff all the time, and when I'm talking to kids, a lot of times my academy helps me in my life, right? So I'm out and I'm just going like, what am I having issues with, you know? And then I'll start talking to the kids about it, and I'll be talking to myself, you know, and just being like talking to myself and you know, affirmations for me and stuff, you know. And so that helps me kind of get that out, and you know what I mean. So
you want to be a good role model too, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
does
A
you
good
find
role
it checking
model.
yourself a little bit more?
yeah,
Staying stricter,
checking yourself. Yeah.
So, you know, like I need to be a, you know, just
Yeah.
maintain your, you know, your
Yeah,
role
I
model.
think that, you know, integrity and all these other things are much more important than, you know, than a lot of the topics that come up in the world. So that's kind of my main motivation. But getting out of construction and stuff like that, I was a contractor, and it was just, people were lame, and everybody never showed up, and then I was working with like drug addicts and stuff, and it was just kind of getting old, you know.
Correct me
and
if
I
I'm
was just like, man, I got to get out of this, and so I spent I had $1,000, and I took it and I opened up a school with $1,000, and I painted Kung Fu on the wall, or on the front window, and I had a 500 square foot spot, and it was just in this kind of a bad part of town, and I was just like, you know what, I was driving by it, and I was like, my job, it was for rent, and I was just like, and then I just snapped decision, I'm opening up a school, I'm done. And then I went to talk to Kenny Berry, and I said, hey man, you know, I want to open up a school, you know, do I have, because I was training with Kenny and the Asano Academy and stuff at the time, and I'd asked him, you know, I didn't really feel like I needed to do that, but I was like, you know what, man, can I open up a gym? And he was like, man, I don't know who's teaching who at this point. Of course you can open up a gym. In my mind, I'm like, yeah, I'm already past you, bro. You know, like, but no disrespect to him, because he was, you know.
Well, Kenny couldn't train.
Right. There's a lot of things, you know. But, I mean, I was getting to that point where I was like, you know what, I can open up my own gym, and let me see how it goes. Let me get out of the construction business, you know. And so then Tom Wolf, first guy to come in, and he's still training. He was training when we got his black belt in jiu-jitsu before I did. And he came in, and no mats, and we were just in another, and it was just kind of like that, you know, one student at a time. You know, I wasn't teaching kids, and one thing at a time, and I was 60 hours at work, and then I'd go and open up my academy at 5 o'clock in the afternoons, you know, and then teach and get home at 9, you know, and just kind of just bust ass, you know. And then bigger building. You know,
I was gonna say, so
you know, and then moving into another spot, and then just kind of gradually progressing and just putting money back into your business. You know, it's just kind of. And then I had this vision of I still have a vision of where I want to be, not necessarily just for me to say, look at me. It's not really about me, really. It's about students and stuff. You know, it's the kids and like here's for instance, everybody goes. You know, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this. Let's put a video out on YouTube, and let's show that I am so badass at triangles. Man, I am so badass at triangles. I'm the triangle king, like Bobby over here, the Bob Muted triangle, right? He hasn't done that, you know, go out and say in the triangle, but let's just say that I'm awesome at this. Me, I'm awesome. Well, that's great that you're awesome at that, like doing arm bars and stuff, man, and you can go and you can subscribe and you can learn, you know, martial arts, and just because that's what I'm in, that's what I'm going to reference. You can go do anything, but martial arts in general. And I found that I don't want to put out, like people ask me, hey man, where's the video of you winning gold? And stuff. I'm like, you don't need to see it. It's for me. Like, why do I need to put that out? Why do I need to put all my stuff out there and be like, hey man, look at me, I'm tapping somebody out or whatever. Look at my match, and then make an excuse about why I didn't win it and stuff like that. And you see that a lot. You see, it wasn't my day. This guy did this, and then I did, and he just happened to do this. I didn't really agree, or I got shafted on these points or whatever the case is. And you're like, dude, nobody cares. Work harder. Like, I don't want to so I keep all that stuff to myself. I progress quietly and stuff. So my goal is not to put out stuff that I'm good at or prove that I'm awesome at this or I can win a tournament or whatever. Even though, I mean, I've got some pretty good skills. I'm pretty confident in my skills, my skill set, and I'm building my skill set every day, like honing and chiseling away at it every day, getting better. But my goal is not that. My goal is to, when I put, you know, my content out, and I'm building content, I've been building stuff, building content, putting it away, video, putting it away. Just, you know, little snippets here and there of the academy and how it runs and those types of things. And I want to show that I've got an amazing program for kids, right? That's unlike anything else anybody else has done. And so that's what I'm focusing on now. You know, because I don't want to be like, oh man, I'm just going to go train and learn all this stuff and then try to be like the best at, I'm going to be the armbar king, and people are going to call me the armbar king or whatever the case is. I want people to actually have a substantial interest in coming and training with me and training with the kids around me and the people around me to get legitimate information, good training, and not have to settle. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my motivation right now. So I'm not.
So last
definitely.
week, Colin was on, and
Yeah.
we were talking, and he had mentioned, he said, I'd like to see jiu-jitsu taught in school.
Okay.
Is that something ever that might have crossed your mind?
Man,
like,
it did. And
you're in a
thing.
small town.
When I was I'm in a small town where actually just recently one of the karate schools there, dude got indicted for like molesting kids and stuff. Man, it was this big thing in our area. He lost a lot of students, and then I couldn't go in the schools anymore. So I used to go in to like my daughter's school and go to a couple of schools around, and they only let me go in there for like career day and stuff now. They don't let you go in and talk to the kids or anything in the area now because they're like, hey man, we're not recruiting children into your academy so that you can, and I'm like, this guy just kind of ruined it for everybody.
Wow.
He was a little creepy in my opinion anyways. And he kind of had a monopoly on the area, and then he just went creepy on everybody, and a couple of his instructors went to prison and stuff. This was just recently, a few years, maybe 5.
That was a
6
karate
years
instructor?
ago. Yeah. And so I wanted to be like, you know what? That's not me. Like I'm not gonna accept that, and so I focused on.
It's a shame.
But going into schools, definitely, man. You should teach. Jiu-Jitsu is not for everybody. You can say it is, but it's not. There are kids and there are students. We all, as an instructor, when that person comes in, you're like, he's not going to last a month. No. And you try, and then you change things up a little bit, and you're like, man, let me show you what it really is, and without scaring you off, and without but it is what it is. And if you're not mentally capable of handling it, you're
Some
gonna
kids
flop.
are not strong. They're
And
just
those
not
kids,
strong.
and so I'm building strong. And when I have the weakest little children, and I hold them accountable, man, and I make them. Man, these kids did 350 push-ups. They're 6 years old. They did 350 push-ups before we even started class. And they did them right. And if you did them wrong, we counted them over. Like if it was a shitty push-up, I don't count it.
Right.
It's got to be a full push-up off your knees and whatever, right? And they're like, oh, they're crying and stuff, and their parents are out there just like, yeah, right.
They're gonna sleep good tonight.
And they do, man. And it's just hold them accountable, and they'll love you, man. And they'll listen, and they'll change, and then you got that next line of kids that come through. And then so what I'm trying to do is,
do you ever worry if you're pushing kids too hard? Do you not worry that the kids are making the decision of whether to come to your school or not? And if you push them too hard, they're going to make the decision.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes you can push a kid a little too hard, but you have to monitor everybody. Like I personally say hello and ask a couple questions to just about every kid. I try to see somebody every day, right? Just so I can get under more of a personal level, so I know where they're coming from. And then their parents come to me and stuff like that. And, of course, they tell me what's going on in their lives. And I try to kind of use that to help them, just individually. So everybody's different.
I guess.
Yeah, everybody's different. Everybody's an individual. And then you get those kids that just fly through it, man. They're just like beasts. And they're just amazing. And they're just little savages, right? And they want – but, you really have to do it right or they're going to quit. When you hit about 12, 13, they disappear off the face of the
Start liking boys
globe.
and girls.
Right? They disappear off the face of the overpopulated, overpolluted globe. Right? There they go. Because you're like, man.
But you said you did that as a teenager too, though.
Yeah, you did. That's what I'm saying. You take a little break and then you come back to it.
Right.
But I had somebody that grabbed me. I had Sigong Garcia. He's passed away now, but he was a master instructor from Taiwan in this crazy art of Kung Fu that did in this little crazy little spot in Jacksonville, and they had like this blacked out windows. And I'd be like, this shit's nuts. And those dudes are doing amazing feats of like just craziness, right? Mm. And so I would just kind of hang out with them, and we'd go to Club 5 and the Milk Bar and all. And they were like bouncers at all these places, and I'm just like a little kid kind of just going like, wow, these dudes long hair and they're like Kung Fu masters and stuff. And that got me interested in Kung Fu again. And I was like, man, these dudes are legit. Like I saw one of my friends, man, he was a good friend of mine, instructor, like do a spinning kick and kick scissors out of some dude's hand at a convenience store in front of Plush nightclub, because he was getting like threatened with some scissors, and this dude just comes out and goes, pow, just like the scissors go flying, and the guy is like, pew, it just takes off. And I'm like, that was awesome, man. You're, that just kept me motivated in it and stuff too. But anyways, it's all about kids really for me. Got a new daughter and stuff, so I want her training, and all that. It's a little tough, but with her mom, like my fiance, she will be there all the time, and so we're planning on building something, And then I've got my daughter Chloe, and she's been doing jiu-jitsu, and she's a beast too, man. She's like, she's really strong, and she's got really good instincts and everything, and it's cool to see as a family, And so that's what we're thinking about every day, each day,
I remember during
so we're focusing on,
I remember during the association meeting, either I had a conversation or you had a conversation about your school. I'd love to come up there and check it out sometime.
Yeah, man, anytime you want. Just trying to do the right things, man, That's pretty much just do it right. And don't pull any punches, like these kids, they need honesty. They need you to tell them that they're dipshits. I literally tell them, quit being a dumbass, man. Like, and then I look at them in the eye and I go, quit being a dumbass. Like, think about it, man. And they're like, oh, you're right. And then it starts to click with them, and then they, or like if a kid is, an amazing student, right? Well, I make sure that they understand that they've got some responsibility on their shoulders now. You know what I mean? Like,
they have to teach that to the dumbasses
there is no way to teach except for by example. Like, there is no other way. And so that's what I try to do. But I let the kids do that too. I'm like, look, your higher belt levels and stuff like that. Like, I put a big weight on their shoulder because it's legit. Like, you're in a dojo, man. This isn't outside. You're in a dojo. You got big weight on your shoulders now. You've got the responsibility now.
Right.
Don't jack it up, right?
That's good.
Yeah. They hold them accountable, and then I have kids teach. I have kids help, but they don't really teach. We have a group that comes in, and they're just chomping at the bit to help out, like the higher belt levels and stuff. And they're always with the 3 to 5 year olds, and which are mean. Man, 3 to 5 year olds are just vicious. They're so mean. They're hard to deal with, and I'm usually dealing with those by myself.
One of the most amazing videos I've
I got
seen.
Like 10 or 12 little 3 to 5 year olds, and they're just kicking each other's asses and throwing
You
stuff
didn't
at
put
each
it out,
other.
but Brett and Andrea did. One of them did. Was Brianna in her belt testing,
Yeah.
and it was a striking. It was a kung fu test, but she just teed off on this dude, and the dude was bigger than her.
Yeah.
And just seeing her confidence and ferocity.
Yeah, it was amazing. wasn't it?
There's no word that can substitute ferocity in that video.
Yeah.
Like Brianna's ferocity showed.
Man.
And to give a girl that kind of confidence, because I know, and I'm sure there's other kids that would have, that just happened to be friends with Brent and happened to follow them. I'm sure you've created other kids that are on the same caliber, no question. But to see that ferocity in Brianna.
She's on a whole nother level, though, too, Like,
because
from the beginning, she was on a whole nother level. Before she even came into my classes, I wouldn't allow kids until age 5. And this was a while back. So she had to turn 5 before she could. And there are other girls, like right now, I have about 65% girls. And so the academy is full of really, really focused, intelligent, like strong-willed girls, man, and it's impressive. And I'm like, yes, because my whole family's girls. I got girl dogs. I've got girls. My daughters, and everything's. But to see them and to see my fiance throw the gloves on and just spar and get punched in the mouth and just keep on rocking, and then trying to instill that in these girls and give them confidence and let them know that, man, punching like a girl has nothing to do with this. That's not how we punch like a girl, man. If anybody tells you, there's a little experiment, and I say this because there's a little experiment done. Yeah, and the kid's like, run like a girl, and all these people are like frailing their arms and stuff. And then they ask the girls to run like a girl, and they're running like a person. It's
right.
What gives you the right to say, run like a girl, I'm going to punch you in the face like a girl would, so that's what I love about like girls like Brianna and stuff, man. She's on a whole nother level.
I saw her compete yesterday for the first time.
She's awesome.
But
She
that's
went
the thing.
second place.
And I was so impressed. The
Super
look in her
technical.
eyes, she was...
A lot of the kids are very
man.
technical. We're very technical. 'Cause I'm a very technical. As of late, I'm slower and more technical and very precise and technical. So I try to instill that in my kids and give them like technical stuff.
Here's the amazing thing about Brianna is I got to throw out there is that Brianna is a phenomenal grappler. As I'm not taking anything from Brenden, as is Brenden. But let's just take Brianna. Is when I watch her grapple, and she always comes down to her. Like it's either her, she wins, or it's her and someone else. And that other dude's phenomenal, right? But I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, let's make this an MMA match, bitch. And you know Brianna's gonna win. You know she's gonna win. It's like you may be able to hang with her on a grappling sense, but let's add some strikes in there, and Brianna's gonna win. You gotta see this girl. Yeah. Because the only way you could keep up with her grappling is to because she's training striking as well. Imagine if she only trained grappling. You know, she probably gives us an equal amount of time.
Yeah, we have testing coming up in a couple days. We have some Kung Fu testing coming up for kids, and we have sparring, right? So those kids will spar, and they'll spar full contact. Everything goes except for elbows and knees, ground striking, stand up, everything. Our Kung Fu is not, it's full
tested,
contact
it's
mixed martial arts. It's battle tested, right? And these kids love it. And they go at it to a point where it's very technical, of course, but they mount and they're giving love taps in the head and stuff, and they're going to different grappling positions and striking from position, and they're defending really well. They're defending punches and kicks, and it's cool to see. But as they, we have a lot of students like that because we don't say, point sparring or whatever, like a Kung Fu or karate schools and stuff. A lot of times they'll do sparring, but it's not really full contact. It's not really mixed martial arts. And with my mixed martial arts background, I can't help but do all of that. Like when they spar, I'm like, everything goes, no knees and elbows, jiu-jitsu, judo, we learn it all. They incorporate it and they go to battle. And they're mounted, and they're doing back attacks, and the glove comes off, and as soon as the glove comes off, this choke goes in, and it's like, these kids are, they're getting it, and it's not about fighting. We don't ever say the word fight or anything. If they start talking about fighting, we correct them. We're not fighting, we're training for just in case, you need to defend yourself, and then those types of things. And of course, I always instill warrior spirit in people too. So my kids, they're going to have my students and myself and whomever I'm teaching, since I haven't made it to a particular level, I can start talking about that type of thing. I'm still a student, obviously, but you instill that warrior spirit in them, and then they start to shine through. And everybody's got it in you, and you just got to let it out, And sometimes these kids just can't let it out, and you got to push it out. You just got to, and then it starts to come out. And competitiveness is not really something that I want to teach. I want to say, hey, man, I'm better than you, or I can beat you, or anything like that, right? But you still want to have, like, you don't play the game to lose. Just the other day, we did a tournament with the Luis's tournament, and one of my kids tapped out in the middle. You were doing points, and Colin was reffing. And the kid taps the ground. He just got mounted. This is his first tournament, and this kid, he's just a really sweet kid, but he didn't get it quite. It's his first tournament and stuff, and this had happened many times before. And you would expect him to be sad that I told him, hey, man, what in the hell are you doing? Like, why are you tapping right now? He didn't do anything to you. But I don't yell it at him. I smile it at him. I'm like, what the hell? You just tapped out, little man? And he's like, it was hard. And I was like, yeah, it's hard. It's a tournament. Like, it's a tournament, man. He's going to take that arm home and put it on his mantle. That little kid wants the trophy of your arm, right? He's going to take your arm home. And he's like, but I got a medal. And I said, right in front of his dad, I said, dude, the medal means nothing. That medal you got doesn't mean anything, dude. You didn't earn that medal. And this is a 2-stripe white belt, 3-stripe little kid white belt. Now, some people might say, hey, that's a little harsh. But I smiled it to him. I looked him in the eye, and he knows me enough to be like, you know what, Professor? You're right, man. My bad. He's not offended or going to cry or anything like that. But when you chastise and you scream at them for losing and tell them they didn't do all the right things, I think that's wrong. I think you tell them, like, if you're not taking it to the end of the rope, that's wrong. I tell my kids too, you can bleed, you can cry, that's okay. Bleeding's okay, right? All these things, crying and all these things are okay. Quitting is not, it's not okay. Like, you can cry all you want. We don't have crying on my mat. If anybody cries, you're gone. You literally, within seconds, you're off the mat. You figure it out, you come back on the mat when you're done crying. It doesn't matter if you got elbowed in the face on accident or if your little ego is hurt and stuff like that. You start crying, you're off the mat immediately. And so they just, okay. And then they're right back on the mat. Like, they don't give you that lip and stuff. Like, they don't cry or they don't continue with the please, coddle me or whatever, because you could do that at home, because I do that with my kids. Like, I coddle them and I give, you know what I mean? Like, but when we're on the mat, it's a whole different ball game, because you signed up for it, man. You signed up for it. You stepped on the mat. Guess what? You're responsible for everything that you're supposed to do on the mat. When you leave the dojo, then, you can jump up in your mom's arms, and you can. And I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna grab my daughter and do the same. Yeah. It's time to flip the switch. We're not in the dojo anymore. It's not time to learn that aspect of your life anymore.
That's the best part about being a school owner is you get to see those. You get to see, like, I have definitely had kids come in, and I've seen the transition to what they've become. I've seen that 180 degrees. I've seen it physically. I've seen it mentally. I saw kids come in with no confidence that had supreme confidence afterwards, right? And that is the one gratifying part about being an instructor. And it's like, every time you go out there, you're questioning yourself. It's like, how can I make them a better fighter in these 45 minutes? Or this hour class I've got. Like, how can I make them better? And you're struggling with that, because we want them to win in competition, and we want them to understand that they're powerful and they're not weak, and we want them to comprehend the power of jiu-jitsu, but and that's a constant struggle, right? And I've learned from you. We learn from each other. I learned a lot from you. We implemented a lot, just from when you come out and show what you do. We've added in. All my kids, it's funny because I'm the nice instructor, right? Like, that's my MO, right? Like, I want the kids to enjoy being here. Like, I didn't want anything to be, because a lot of the kids make the decisions. Like, people don't understand that. Instructors are like sitting here saying, "You'll do this, you'll do that," but they don't realize that the parent didn't make the decision. Some parents do. Some parents are like, "You're gonna be here and you're gonna learn." But some kids are like, "Nah, I'm not doing that. I'm not running 7 laps, bro. I'm out." And then the parents are like, "Okay." So if you want to be able to do this for a living, some of those kids, you do have to kind of take that into consideration. But it's funny, because when you came out and you would, like, or when I would watch you teaching your kids, they were like, "Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, sir." And I adopted that, like, big time. And today, all my kids, at first they didn't like it. Like, when I first started doing that, my kids were like, you could see the resentment, right? You could see the resentment. You could see the kids that struggled with the concept of authority. Yeah. And we went full bore with that, right? And, like, now our kids, like, embraced it. And we taught them that you're being part of an organization. You can't have an organization without a head, right? And if you want to be the head one day, then you have to embrace that organization as a whole, because you can never be the head if you can't have followers, right? Like, those people have to. You can't be a leader without having been a follower. Yeah. Right.
You're always a follower, really. I actually tell students that too. Like, are you a leader or are you a follower? Here's a couple of things that might contradict what everybody else may do. Say, okay, are you a leader or a follower? And they're like, "I'm a leader." And I'm like, "Oh, really? You're a leader? Like, you don't know shit, man. Like, you're not a leader." And they're like, "But I want to be a leader." And I'm like, "Well, you're not right now. You will be eventually. But you'd rather be a follower. Do you think I'd rather be a follower or a leader?" And they're like, "A leader." And I'm like, "Yeah, I am a leader, and I've gotten to that point. But there are still those that I'm following. There are still things that I have to better myself, and I'm still following. It doesn't mean I'm not your leader, right? But I'm still the follower, and I'll always be. But I'll also be a leader in the sense that I've learned from those mistakes. And then I'll ask them, "Do you speak first or do you wait?" And they're like, you got to speak your mind. You got to speak up. And I'm like, no. You wait for everybody to speak first. Silence is better. And then after everybody says what they have to say, now have an intelligent response. And then I'm like, do you ever give up? And they're like, never. And I'm like, yes, you always give up. And they're like, what the hell is this dude talking about?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I'm about to learn something.
I'm like, okay, you always give up. And this is from Henner, man. This is from Henner. And I adapt a lot of stuff because I see an amazing mind like that. You adapt little things here and there. And, I adapted this. And he said, yeah, you give up. You give up, man. And they're like, they don't get it. And you're like, to progress your position. If you stay here and you just like do this and you're like, no, this sucks and I'm just going to live here. Like, give up, but advance. Advance your position. Move to a better spot. Move to a place where you can escape. Move to a place where you can control, but give it up. And so giving up and being a leader and being a follower and all those things, like if you really think about them, they make sense. But you can't always say, never give up, never give up, never give up, because that person's going to stay right where they're at and they're not going to progress. They're not going to move on. They're not going to be like, this is bullshit, I'm out. I'm giving up because I'm moving on to better things. And if you're not progressing to that next thing, that means you're just hanging on, And so that's a cool little concept. That's definitely, something. Man, Henner was one of. It's funny because I've only really seen him once in person and stuff. We went down to Tampa and trained with them. And when we came back from that, I was just blown away, man. I was just like, this is awesome. The way that he approached and everything. And so you don't want to be like that because I don't want to emulate somebody to that point. But I always took what different instructors did,
someone, right?
And you want to just take a piece of what they are and be like, man, you know what? The reason why they're so inspirational is for that reason. They want to spread their knowledge, man. They want to say, hey, look, you should probably try doing it like this. And if your ego is so hard that you stand there and just be like, I already know what's going on. I'm not gonna whatever. So
he was very humble. Henner was very humble.
And,
one of the interesting things about
he kicks his ass still. He says, he's like I'll tap 7 times instead of 10 now, but I'm still, right. So he knows, but his mind works differently. He's more of the talker, and he is more of the.
One of the things I liked about
and stuff as a group
that seminar is. I don't know if you remember this, or I don't know if you remember it how I do. Feel free to correct me if you don't remember it the way I do. But I remember Henner would show a lot of techniques, and as he was showing a technique, like every once in a while, he'd look over to me and go, "Right, Bobby, right?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, right." And it was like, what?
He was talking, man.
I just thought that was super cool. That that a few times he kind of looked over and he was like, "Hey, right, Bobby, right?" And I was like. The fact that that was a huge compliment for me at the time. Like the fact that he would look over at me and you kind of agree. For me, that was a matter of humility. Like that was a matter of him being humble. Like he's not the grand authority. Like this guy's trained a while. He can corroborate what I'm saying, right? And I just thought that was so cool. I became a fan, like from his humility in that seminar. But it was a super cool experience.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's just stuff you take. When I first started teaching, I was like, you know what? I have my own style, and I'm going to do my best. And then I said, instead of becoming, because I'm not going to lie, guys, I have a kind of a talent that comes naturally, like body mechanics, things like that. I've recognized that through playing sports in school and throwing a ping pong ball and landing it right into the trash can there, no matter what. Like when I'm at my school and stuff, I throw a water bottle away, I go, and it goes across the room, and it lands right in the trash can. People are like, what the hell? Well, it's only because I have a good hand-eye coordination and things have come naturally. And so I make sure that I have a respect for those who are weaker, smaller, not as strong, those type of things, because they become the better teacher because they understand what it takes to get good. They had to struggle through it and all that stuff. And so when I first opened up the academy, I was like, you know what? When I train with a bunch of different Gracies, Paulson and Arjun Chai Sarasut, and in Thailand with Chak Chai and and with guys in the CSW system and stuff like that, and Hoist and with Bobby and with all this stuff and Henner and all these people. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to become the best teacher, not the best doer. you know, because I know that I can take a technique and I can do it. You know, I'm going to get good at it because my will to get good at it, my work ethic's going to take care of itself. But am I really going to be a good teacher? You know, am I going to be able to regurgitate this information out properly, you know, and do it with like some style and do it with like some like meaning behind it to where I'm not just the next instructor, you know what I mean? So that was my motivation to become the best teacher possible. And so I would see what other people did and I'd be like, that sucks, man. And then I would see what somebody did and I'd be like, that's awesome. And then I'd see, that sucks, that's awesome. And then I'm like, man, we went to Valente Brothers and we're like, dude, let's just sit in on all the kids' classes. And I'm sitting over there and I'm like just taking notes, you know, that kids' classes are doing, whatever. And I'm just like, what are they doing with their kids? You know, what is this school doing with their kids? And for the most part, everybody wants their kids to be fighters and to win and turn all this other stuff. Yeah, that'll come, but that shouldn't be the main focus, you know. You should be a teacher first and a guide and you know, and be an ear for them to come to you and all these other things, right? And then all that other stuff just falls right into place. They become good. Like our kids are good, man. They're like very technical and they understand the art and, you know, and they compete well and those types of things. But if you ask them on a different level, other things like their character and things like that, you'll get answers that are pretty cool. You're like, man, this is
I would say
cool.
the Valentes are near genius.
Yeah.
They are. They're probably still doing things I don't understand. Those guys. If you want to have a super successful school, if you want to make money, like good money, teaching martial arts, I recommend going and training with those guys, seeing what they're doing.
It's not just the money either. You know, it's the fact that you have a stage. Like, can you be successful enough to have a stage big enough to reach as many people as you can?
And money comes with success.
Money comes with
the
success. And I always talk about money. You know, buying a home and all these other things. I'm really saving right now and trying to buy a home eventually and stuff. And you're like, man, you know, do I need a $400,000 home, a $500,000 home? You know, no, not really. $250,000. You know, you work hard for that. You're like, dang, that's a pretty substantial. In my life, man, I didn't grow up living in a really expensive home or anything. My mom struggled.
That's an apartment in California.
Yeah, man, I lived in a van,
so you know.
and stuff like that. Points where my dad had me and stuff. Man, it was rough, you know, drinking beer at 3 years old just because my dad's not watching me. And there's also then it just things change when mom gets her shit together and really gets a good job, and then she's really and then it just all changes. So everybody goes through their stuff, but you know, you just want to be a good guide and influence, you know, and so yeah, it's pretty much the gist of my
and the Valentes changed my take on training. I gotta give some props to those
great
guys.
Guide. They're geniuses in the sense of that too, but they're educated enough to where they can sit and you know, everything that they're saying and stuff, and that's what I got from it. I'm not trying to just keep talking about, you know, this particular people, but that's what I took from that.
I'm bringing it up. They're geniuses.
That's what I took from that. I'm like, you know what, this is. I need to implement some things like this.
No matter
this
how,
is crazy, and you never saw that from anyone else because everyone else is just like, look at me, fighters, look at me, I'm this, I'm that, you know. Conor McGregor,
they turn it upside down.
I'm like, you know, I love Conor and all that, but you know, he's not a role model. You know, he's not progressing the art. He's not progressing MMA. He's not. He's just changing it. He's not progressing it, and you know, I think that's detrimental. You know, even though I love him and his skill set is amazing and everything.
McGregor, you're talking about McGregor?
Yeah, man, and all these things. But man, can you just kind of dial it down a notch? You're not really a role model. It's all about you, and it's not really all about you because nobody really gives a shit about you. Really, they don't.
He's a showman.
Because everybody needs to take care of their own stuff. But I agree with him being honest in his approach, like screaming and yelling at Khabib, man. He's just being honest. Khabib's got to be strong. He's like, I'm just going to be silent and I'm going to win. But inside, he wants to say stuff, right? But Conor, I give him props, man. He's just spurting it out. He's like, look, this is what's going to happen. He's just being honest, you know. He's just like, so you got to give it to him there, you know.
Who's your pick?
But Conor. I've watched all 26 of Khabib's fights. I watched him just the other day. And his grappling, his wrestling is outstanding. He's going to try to take He's going to try to take Connor down, and he's going to try to pound him out down there on the ground. I guarantee you Connor is just sitting there just defending takedowns. And Khabib's had some problems with guys who can defend takedowns. You know, like he tried against a lot of guys, and he couldn't get it. And then he had to go to his stand-up. And if he has to do that, then it's done. You know, it's like there's no way you're going to stand with Connor. And confidence is king, and he's like the most confident dude. You know, there's a lot of fighters that are talking about it, like how confident he is. And if he's that confident, he doesn't really give a shit if he loses or not. He really doesn't. He does what he doesn't. Like when he loses, he's gonna be like, damn, that was awesome, man. Props to him. This is what happened. He was the better man. Let's do a rematch. I'll get him next time. You know, and then he'll just try to do a rematch and, you know, whatever. I don't agree with him. I don't really like him particularly. But when I see him fight, it's pretty awesome. Yeah. You know. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, but going to Russia and doing all that, you know, that's gonna be a mountain to climb for McGregor, man. But I think he's got the skill.
That fight's happening in Russia?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's pretty solid.
Dana was calling that, saying this is going to be the biggest pay-per-view.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. You know, you got all Europe, and you got, Russia is what, 200, no, Russia's much bigger than Ireland. I mean, it's huge. 250 million or something. I don't know what the number is of people, but that's like everybody's going to buy that fight in Russia, you know, whatever. Yeah. And then it's sold in Ireland, it's 6 million people. You know, they're all going to buy. But I won't buy it.
No.
Maybe I like to have friends at the house or whatever to watch stuff like that. But last time I had Mayweather fight at my crib, and man, it was just like sitting there and everybody's just boring. This is like everything was so boring.
You saw Mayweather's coming out of retirement to fight Pacquiao, right?
It was this, and it was everything was just like slap boxing and stuff. And I'm like, when is somebody gonna really lay in? And then the hammer fists start coming down. I'm like, yeah, we can't do that. You know, it's like, you know, so but it was so boring. We were all just like finished food and we're just watching this boxing match. And ding, ding, ding. Next round, we're like, it's boring, man.
Bring back Tyson.
Yeah, bring back Tyson.
Bring back the heavyweight
Tyson's like, just crushing people. But yeah, I don't know. Boxing has just gotten a little boring to me. But there are some pretty dynamic fighters and stuff. But man, going and watching another thing too, man. Kids in Thailand. Like
I've been seeing
the first time I remember, we were at Fairtex in Bangkok, near Bangkok. I'm not sure if it was actually near there or right in there, but we woke up in the morning and there's this like punching going on. We can hear it going whap, whap, whap. And I was just like, what's going on? This is kind of my first experience really at a Muay Thai gym in Thailand, you know, in the jungle in Thailand, in the open air. And this kid had to have been 2, 3, and he was throwing this right cross, and it was just this beautiful right cross, and he was doing it on the turnbuckle. And there's other 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, whatever over here getting rubbed down with oil, and they're just like getting prepared for their day of training. And I'm like, these fucking kids back in the United States, man, they just
no idea, right?
Man, you guys complain and bitch about everything, and these kids, man, and they're good.
They'll put in 12 hours.
They're putting it, but they're also good students. They are. They were very respectful, and they're excellent students, right? But just going to school is a privilege, you know what I mean? Like I talk about kids when I have to make them do 350 push-ups. I said, you get to do 350 push-ups. You like have the privilege to be on these $200 a piece mats. You're on $10,000 worth of mats doing push-ups by somebody who's dedicated their life to helping you. Like, shut your face. Do the push-ups. Right, you're privileged to be able to do push-ups. Guess what? That gi cost your mom $120. Shut up. Like, get to work. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then it ends that entitlement, and they're like, you know what, man? I really want to take care of this gi now. My mom paid a lot of money for this, you know, or whatever, you know, and you make them accountable, you know, and it works, man. It's working. Like, it's working, you know, and I'm honing it and jotting things down and making my own system. And I want to have my own system, you know, but it's not because I want me, right? I want them to succeed, you know what I mean? And my success will come and, you know, and stuff like that. But
I can see how it could be a touchy subject, though, with kids. Because nowadays, you know, the parents, too, can be a little bit
Yeah, we got kids that teach from
don't yell at my child,
from their
please.
sofas, right? And
yeah.
do this, do that. They start screaming. I've kicked out families. I have. I've kicked out families
I've
because
done
the
that
parents
too.
wouldn't stop yelling for the kids what to do. I'm just
Yeah.
like, have you been out here yet? Did you try that? You know, what you're yelling at them to do. It's like, it's not that easy.
Yeah. You become so passionate about it because it becomes like so much part of you, because it's like most of my day, you know, like I'm getting ready, I'm doing private lessons during the day, I'm teaching law enforcement, I got girls that come in that are looking to lose weight and get better diet, and then there's all this other stuff going on, and then you go into the class every day, and it's like consumes you every day. But it's only a limited amount of time. It's really not a lot, 4 or 5 hours a day, you know, every day. But still, in the afternoon and everything. But it just consumes you, you know, and so you just live that life through it,
right.
you know, because it consumes you. But I also, you know, do gardening and
All right, let's change
walks
gears real
and
quick.
things like that. You know, you don't just focus solely on jiu-jitsu and your academy and whatnot. You know, I've, you know, with my new daughter and stuff like that, man, it's just like you just want to sing stupid songs and call yourself poopy doopy and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm poopy doopy at home right now. Like, I don't need, how did I become, like, I'm supposed to be like, you know, Mr.
You're poopy
But
doopy
I'm
to
not.
me,
I'm
Kris.
poopy doopy.
You're poopy doopy to me.
What was it again? Bob
Muta.
Bob Muta
That's
Triangle.
the old. That was the old name of my triangle.
I like
that's,
that.
That's,
But I don't know.
That's
That's
like
pre-OG.
5 years old. You guys
It
don't
is.
know
That's
about
back
that.
in the
Well,
day.
bring it back.
Used
I
to be
like
the Bob
it.
Muta.
But
Bob
no,
Muta
the
triangle.
where's your head
that
at?
was
I
the-
use that same analogy all the time. Like, this is the technique of the triangle, and then
I had a theme
your
song.
head at?
I
Coming
had a
in my
theme
head.
song. I actually had
Yeah,
a theme song.
and it's all about the head, you know, and then it clicks. You know, I just used to. My analogies. I got so many things written down in games, written down in analogies, stupid things, man,
I'll
that
never call
nobody
you
understands
poopy-doopy.
except for my students. You know, and it's my system and stuff. And that way I can yell it. You know, and Paulson taught me that. Hey, man, yell at the kids or yell at your students some crazy stuff that nobody knows what's going on, and that means throw the knee bar. And you're like, chopsticks, you know, and they don't know what chopsticks means, you know, but, you know, or they know tornado, and it means nothing. Tornado doesn't mean turn or spin. It means something else, you know. But so, you know, kill the lion, you know, that's a Gracie game. But I've also come up with other ones, you know, that, you know, that pertain to the gameplay, and they're learning jiu-jitsu and they don't even know it, you know, they have no idea. But yeah, you said.
All right, I want to change gears. So this is what I want to do now.
Okay.
So I think we're all woke on some level, right? Like,
Sure.
Like when we talk about woke for me is when you've researched something that's not mainstream. All right. So when
Right.
you have a belief that's outside of a mainstream belief, if you say, "Oh yeah, man, you know, 9/11, that was an inside job," well, that's not mainstream.
Yeah.
Or if you say, "Well, I mean, I don't, you know, I don't do fluoride, not in any manner, you know, not in toothpaste, not in whatever, or I don't use antiperspirant, you know, I use all natural, you know, I use like Tom's of Maine or something. My thing is, are you into any, like, you know, what things are you into where you consider woke? Do you have any non-mainstream beliefs?
Here's where I think woke comes from. So I'm not a religious person, right? But Taoism and Buddhism are like really, really interesting to me. Not because of their afterlife beliefs or their, you know, all that type of thing. But what I mean is when you really think about it and you really talk to those folks and you really, which I have, I've sat in front of Buddhist monks and stuff, and I've got a tattoo of of an unkillable creature and things like that. I mean, it's all just, I don't believe that I'm invincible now that I have Hanuman. I just know that Hanuman is unbreakable, you know, and you kind of just use philosophy to guide your own life. And so woke to me is guiding yourself in a manner that you love. Because it's all within yourself. Nothing is outside of yourself at all. All thoughts are coming to existence, you know, just by you thinking them and those sort of things. So, you know, woke to me is not necessarily like a conspiracy theory or 9/11 or whatever, because, you know, I mean, it is kind of woke to who? Who am I trying to prove I'm woke to? Like, I really don't give a shit what you think, really. I do care what you think. I do, because you're my friend and I love you and all that. But you just don't really care, really. You don't, like, you're gonna do what makes you happy, and I think that's woke. You know, like, So I do like I have some issues with.
But woke also implies
with like food and things like that. Like for me, it's all about diet and food. Like I ate shit, and I didn't realize, and then now I'm not, and then veganism and vegetarianism and all that stuff, I don't really agree with all that. I do ethically, but not physically, or what it does to your body eating meat and those types of things. I don't really, but I have been woke when it comes to what's in my food, the things that are in my toothpaste, the thing that's in my water, the things that in my bottled water.
We want to talk about some of those.
But bottled water. So I've done some investing in certain things. Okay. And what I've noticed is that there are things that are hidden niches in there. And there's one that's bottled water is no longer going to be bottled in, plastic. There's a company that I've invested in that has patents on water in
glass.
In paper. You can just burn it when you're done. It's done, right? Just like what Singapore does. They burn all their trash. They put it into their own ocean that they've made, and they make more land, and there's green pastures on this stuff, right? They've got it figured out. Singapore does. Well, they're small. They can do it. But anyways, so that in the sense of the environment and things like that. I've just been more woke in the sense of, like, you know what? I'm going to, influences by my fiance and other people and stuff that really care about the environment, really not about global warming or is this real or is that real, anything. It's more like, just do your part, man. Just like don't be a shithead and flick your cigarette out the window and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, so, and then foods, for instance. Now it's getting better, but man, all this organic and all this natural and all this, it's just a bunch of like marketing, really, when you really dig into the ingredients of things. And so I've just been trying to just eat things that aren't processed and see what happens, see why these things are causing cancers and things. And I don't have the research tools, man. I don't have, I'm just believing what scientists are telling me, when it comes to that thing too, but right now, really about the environment. Like, there's kids out there that are cleaning up the oceans, man. And he's only, he started when he was like 16 or 17. He's building this thing, and he's got this amazing contraption that as of right now, it just launched. It's out there cleaning up trillions of tons, of trash, in these accumulated areas in the oceans and stuff like that. And I love nature and the oceans, and I love all those things. And I start seeing, animals dying and those types of things. We boycotted SeaWorld, we don't want to go to SeaWorld, man. I don't want to go to SeaWorld. And you can do you can just see for yourselves. These animals aren't happy, and you become woke, whatever you want to say. And so now we don't, my daughter was like, let's go to SeaWorld. And we're like, okay, yeah. And then my fiance is like, nah, check this out. And then I was up all night like, what the fuck is people, what the hell? Japan, man, you're bonkers, man. You're like just depleting the oceans. And you're just like, if you call that your culture and all this, man, you're just depleting, you're just killing these amazing animals that are smart and beautiful animals, man. And they have a higher consciousness than some humans do, and you're just slaughtering them. And so in that sense, I'm like, we're not going to SeaWorld. And then I told my daughter that this is why we're not going to SeaWorld. She's like, we don't want to go to SeaWorld. Yeah. And so, because
to go back,
the environment really is.
Woke for me, Kris, is anything where it's outside of the standard belief system, because that implies that the majority of people are sleeping, but you woke up to that. So I agree with you that woke can be regarding that it can be regarding the environment. It doesn't have to be a conspiracy theory. Like that guy never said that. My point is, woke can be many, many different things. But that's what I want to hear about, your non-mainstream beliefs. But,
so I don't really have, I can't really think of anything particular that I'm non-mainstream beliefs. I just know that I don't follow groups of people that say things, or I don't blindly believe in things or anything like that. I do relatively good research on things, and when you really focus on it, like you said, like if you really do research on certain things and become woke or whatever you want to say, you can spend your time on that, or other things, you know what I mean? So I haven't really delved into any conspiracy theory. I've read about things and I, about the things that are current with us, with 9/11 and different things like, Bin Laden's body and all these other things. I mean, this stuff is all questionable stuff. You're like, dude, where is the body? That type of thing. George W. Bush and all this other stuff. And I've done some research on these people, and I'm like, man, the Clintons are pretty horrible people. Like these people are horrible. Like, why is everybody just...
Right.
Yeah, you're talking about indictments and impeachments and dead people and all this other thing, and they just go along with their lives, and they're just the Clintons. You're like, why would you even...
I would not shake one of their
like,
hands.
no way,
my,
man.
My possibility of death would
and so that
multiply times
power that they
100.
had, and yeah, I've become woke in that sense, politically, and things like that. And my favorite band as a kid was Rage Against the Machine, because I listened to them, and I was in that age where very influential and stuff, and I was just, I really believed in power in the people and to not be to listen to what they say and all these other things, and I rebelled, and man, I got in big trouble in school and stuff and all that. And then my senior year I tightened up and I made straight A's and I graduated, and I just became a completely different person through meeting a really killer influence. And that was my Kung Fu instructor and friends that trained with them. And he was just like, you know what, let's concentrate on something else other than, this, and let's really give some meaning and some substance to your life. Let's do that.
Right. That's it.
And so that's what I did. And then so that became the meaning and the substance to my life. And then everything else changed from there, Everything changed. Like the whole world opened up, really, after that.
So I enjoy documentaries, right? But sometimes after brain's been working all day, I just want to just be dumb and just watch something stupid. So what are your go-to stupid things?
Oh,
like
man, Family Guy was one for a long time because I think it's just a brilliant show, even though it's really like inappropriate, and they just go right to the edge, and then they just come back. They don't really go past the edge, but they take you right to it.
Sometimes I question it because they get
Family
away
Guy
with
was pretty crazy, and then that's my stupid brainless stuff. But it's really not brainless when you really watch it. It's not brainless. You got to have some brains to get some of the inside jokes and analogies and all that shit. But I don't watch TV, man.
Yeah.
My TV is off.
Busy guy.
I don't watch movies. I don't watch YouTube. I don't watch things, man. If I turn the TV on, I like to watch football. So I'm not a big, huge sports fan, but my TV stays silent, and I'm speaking with my kids, and I'm playing with them, and I'm outside, and doing those types of things. You know what I mean? So I'm not really watching TV. I don't have a TV show. I don't watch a TV show. I don't follow a TV show. I could tell you about shows that my mom watched back in the day, or when I was just hanging out at home when I was, a teenager and stuff like that. But and a young adult and stuff. But as of right now, since there is the past or the future doesn't exist at all, now is what I focus on. So I'm just I purposely, flip that thing and stick it under a pillow. I purposely turn the TV off in the evenings, and then I don't get caught up. I'm going to watch my show, and leave me alone. I need to watch my show and stuff like that. And I'm not knocking people who do, because it's entertainment and stuff, and it's cool. Whatever. That's cool. It's your entertainment and stuff. And I watch mostly I would watch a documentary or something or whatever, but I'm done with the documentaries about conspiracies and things. I'd rather watch documentaries about people or technologies or inventions and stuff, and I watch those types of things. But we really don't, sometimes we do, sometimes we'll pop it on, here and there, but my TV stays off. I don't have a TV in my bedroom. I do not have a TV in my room. I don't sit in bed and watch TV at night. I go to bed and I go to bed. I go and I spend time with my fiance and my family, and in that we don't have that in our bedroom to keep us from speaking to each other and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can't really comment on TV shows or anything, man. Now movies, sometimes I haven't really watched a really good movie. Man, kids movies, dude. I have kids, and I take them to movies, and when we go, we're going to kids movies and stuff. And now I got a new one, and now that my eldest daughter is out of all those kids movies and stuff, now we have a new daughter that's going to be all the new stuff. And now I'm just going to be like going to movies to watch animation and kid stuff. And I enjoy it. I think it's pretty funny. They put some stuff in there for us. But I also don't just constantly engulf myself in children's things either. You know, you put the kids to bed and you do your thing and you watch or do
the cool thing today is that
things that don't involve
you can
children.
watch a kids show today and it can be absolutely chocked full of
man, it is. Yeah, and it's cool.
Adult entertainment like Shrek, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember I had probably watched Shrek four or five times
Farquaad.
before I realized Farquaad was fuckwad. Like I didn't get it,
so
right? It's like
things.
Lord Farquaad. And I'm like, one day I'm just like,
Yeah.
holy shit, he's calling him a fuckwad.
Yeah.
I just got that. But like just the humor in Shrek, like there's probably 100 other cases like that where you didn't get it and they were talking on that level. But absolutely, they do that today.
Yeah, like man, the last movie sequences and stuff I really watched. Like we used to talk about stuff all the time. Like, hey man, you watch another movie on YouTube or on Netflix or something like that. But to tell you the truth, man, my Netflix account isn't even working right now. Like it's not even working. Like they've sent me emails like, "Hey man, you need a new payment account." I'm like, "Fuck off, man! I don't need to give you my $10 to watch dumb shit that you don't even have really good stuff on." Anyways, you know, like get some good movies on there, man, and I'll watch some Netflix. But
I like their documentaries.
But
they
do have some cool documentaries and stuff. You know, I've seen what the hell. I've seen all that stuff. Like I do watch those things every once in a while. But like I said, man, you know, like I saw that when I was like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna renew my Netflix. Like, I'm just not. I got, you know what I mean. Like, you might say, well, hey, man, you need to be informed in things like that, and I do inform myself. You know, I'm not like ignorant to what's going on. Some might say I am. Some might say, hey, man, you're ignorant to what's really going on. You're not woke. You know. You know, I mean, I'll do my
I'm not
best.
saying that.
No,
I'm just saying that.
I'll do my
bro,
best.
I don't know. I'm just gonna say out there. I don't
When it
know.
all goes down, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Nothing matters.
What about
Unless
cooking?
you're someone living a life of sin, then it does matter.
Yes, but everybody.
If you're living a good life,
man.
then it doesn't matter.
I'll tell you what, man. You're not living a good life. You're not. Like you may say, we are living good lives. We feel like we are, but in that context, like when you have to follow some religious text that tells you how to behave, you're not. So those that really truly believed would act as so because they would truly believe that they're going to be damned. They would truly believe it, but they don't. You know what I mean? So if you knew, right? If you knew 100%, if you were faithful and knew, you wouldn't act that way. If God was real, he would he's either not all-knowing or not all love.
Wow, why would you say he's not all-knowing? I'm just curious.
Well, because there are famine, rape, murder, those types of things that happen in the world that could be prevented by the all-knowing, all-powerful. And
he allows
then,
that to happen.
yeah, and then, well, you know, it seems like a pretty mean guy, you know.
Well, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Like, how could... I mean,
Seems like
in
a
theory,
pretty-
I enjoy...
But you would have to be all loving or all knowing, and if he's all knowing, then he would fix things. If he was all loving, then none of that would happen. So it's
You can only sin against another creature.
well, sure.
So how can he tell, and I just enjoy entertaining this thought. It's something I enjoy doing, right? It's not about, it's my joy. I like it.
Yeah.
But if he gave if he gave man free will, right? He did that for the sake of, he wanted to see who could be closer to him, or he wanted to see who should be snuffed out. Let's just say that. I think there are people in this world who should Jeffrey Dahmer be allowed to live, or should he be snuffed out? I mean, if the guy loves killing, I would agree that his spirit needs to be snuffed out. Now, if you don't give people free will, then you didn't create, what kind of creation is that, right? If I create a program and I go, bro, you just do everything that I say you do, that's nothing to be proud of. But if I create something and go, think on your own, come up with your own, and then you turn out to be a good program that does righteous things, then I can be pretty proud of that. I can be like, wow.
Then pat yourself on the back and have an ego. Like, well, I thought I did it.
It
you
doesn't.
know,
It
I
doesn't.
did
It's
it.
not. It's not.
I made
well, it's not-
people. You know, it's like, well, why? What? You know,
Maybe he
you
was
pat
lonely.
yourself
Maybe
on the
what
back,
if? What if
know?
you are the single most powerful thing in the world? Is it
Yeah, well,
possible
you
you
know,
could be lonely?
It is. It's lonely at the top, man. You
So
know,
wouldn't
I
you
guess
want
it
to
would
create
be,
a
you know?
truly sentient being with the ability to think critically and have true?
So that you can condemn them and burn them and all that? You just want to just like, hey, you know, like, why?
Well,
why do all
otherwise, you're
that?
just creating a program that just sucks up to you. Like
Well,
anyone, what's the
you know,
alternate?
it's
Is the alternate
continuing to
better?
go on, and as life goes on, and those that said, rapture's happening and all
if-
those things, like it's gonna just time's gonna keep going, and in another few thousand years, and another 6 million years, 6 billion years, whenever, I forget the number, but I'm not want to sound like an idiot. The sun is going to engulf everything, and then it's gonna burn everything up, and then it's gonna explode, and then it's gonna become a small white dwarf star, and that's it. Like that's it. We're done. So if we don't
Well, that's
go to another
one
planet-
theory.
So it's going to. That's what happens, and you see, and it gets to be a red giant at its hot. Boom! It explodes. It creates supernovas. Some black holes created.
Now
some
you
point.
know that everything you're talking about is 100% theory. Like absolutely unquestionably.
Well, if you ask,
100%
yeah.
theory.
So yeah.
Man
but,
has not
but
been
it's
on
a
Earth
very,
long
very,
enough to observe any of that. So like,
Well, you
like
can
that's
observe
the
a black
interesting
hole.
thing.
You can actually see it. You can see it. You can see it with a telescope, and they've seen them, and you see it. You can see it. But
You've seen a black hole?
I've seen them through photographs and different things coming from telescopes.
Science books.
We
Have you seen
We
a
all
black
have a
hole?
place. Like, are you gonna go take pictures of it? Like, go take pictures of some black holes, man, and then tell me. Like, you could do it if you wanted to. Just go get the telescope.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can. Take a
can.
picture
Go
of a
get the
black
telescope,
hole. I
but
think
go do
NASA
it, though.
tells you
Go-
there's pictures of that, but at
Well-
the same time, NASA shows me videos and goes, "Hey, I'm really in space," and then they fall off the cables.
Well, I mean, I don't know where. I tried to see where all that was coming from in that video and all that, man. And you
I shared
can
that.
easily
No,
see
don't
where
say
his
anything, don't say
pinky
anything.
hits the. I mean, there's a lot of. And they
Oh,
may.
you
They may
think
have,
it was a pinky in the pocket?
Well, I mean, I haven't really studied it, man.
Okay,
I don't know.
Well, there's a big thing because
Well, I'm not
going to
tell you, but I do know that I can see the space station with my telescope. I've seen it.
No. I can tell you unequivocally,
Well, I know-
without a doubt, for a fact, beyond argument, that what you've seen is a little black dot about that big.
No, actually, it's you can see the solar panels like this. You can actually see it.
That's not true.
Yeah, it is true.
That's not
man.
true because
Well,
I've
then you don't
looked up.
believe
I've
me. That's
looked
what I'm
up the
trying to
most
say.
powerful telescope
a
today.
$3,000 telescope can see that, and there's been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that have done that. and
Let's see if
seen
anyone's
video.
taking a photo.
Go
of
ahead.
What you're talking
Pop
about.
it up, man. It's out there, and you can see. Like, I've seen it with my own two eyes through the telescope that I have in my
Well, he's
back
looking
porch.
it up. I'm gonna change the subject a little bit because
So
you
yeah.
talked about diet and you
Diet,
talked about
yeah.
spending time with your family.
yeah.
Do you guys all cook together? Because I find cooking
Yeah,
with
man.
my kids is
Yeah,
fun,
I
man.
cook. I do all the cooking pretty much.
Yeah.
Because I love it, man. I just do it because I love it, and we go out sometimes, but I do a lot of the cooking. Yeah, because I like it. I'm good at it, man. I come from a family of people that cook, and I get to eat while I'm cooking, and I enjoy being in the kitchen and stuff like that. And I like serving food to people and seeing their love for it and all that stuff. And then I just love different tastes and textures and all that stuff. So food's like a huge I spend a lot of money on that, and I don't spend money on much other things like frivolously. But if I would say I do on food sometimes, because I think that's an important thing, and I think that if you gotta have food, you better make it good. You have to have it anyways. You can't go without it. Why not make it like super good? If you're capable of it. If you're not capable of it, then eat rice. And just do your thing. Like if you can't. But I don't frivolously go buy a bunch of crazy stuff and flaunt this and flaunt that. And what really kills me is single serving things and stuff like that, like tearing things apart, throwing it in the trash. I'm just like, why are we throwing this piece of plastic in the trash again? I just used this one time, and then this thing that you've packaged for me, it looks nice, but then I cut it up and throw it in the trash. And where's it going? It's going to the recycling bin, yes, sometimes, but most times it goes into a pile, and it's like we gotta, so. I wish I was better at creating less trash, stuff like that when it comes to food. But we do buy a lot of fresh stuff. We're at the grocery store every day, pretty much, man.
Really?
Yeah, we're buying fresh produce and fresh fish and stuff all the time. So we're in there. These people see us all the time at Publix and stuff, and they're like, "Hey, what's up, man? You been here yesterday and the day before?" You're like, we're like,
It's fresh.
Don't you want to shop for the week? And we're like, yeah, if we buy a bunch of processed shit, yeah, we can shop for a month and put it in our cabinet. But I don't want to put all this stuff in my cabinet. I want to buy some fresh things at least.
It's a decent representation. I'll give you that. It is a decent representation of the ISS.
Yeah.
It's more than a square. There's no question about that.
Definitely.
It basically has the shape.
And
of
that's
it.
what I've seen. Like, I'm telling you, man. Like, if you can't trust, if you're saying that I'm in on it, then I can say, hey, man, that I'm hiding this.
No, but that doesn't.
But
prove...
I've seen it. Like, when I go like this and I track it and I look through the hole and I go and I see that.
Yeah.
I see it, man. I see it. Like,
That's
I've
cool.
seen it.
Yeah, but that doesn't
Like,
prove anything to me.
Well, it proves that I think that if you really,
There's
like,
something
how is that?
There's something
Is there
up in
some
the sky,
sort of
no question about it.
Why can't it be the space station then? Why does it have to be not? Like, why can't it be the space station? Why?
Well,
is
because the footage of the space station is faked.
Well, I mean, I don't think
That's
so.
why it can't be the space station, because
I don't know, man.
there's no
Like,
question.
but
Any rational person that's seen the video of the space station would
Mhm.
agree that they faked their footage.
yeah,
That's
Yeah,
that's why it can't be real. That's why
Maybe.
that may be something, and maybe they put something in the
now
air.
this is from
that-
a lot of different people that come. Like, I've done some, because when I did some research too, I was like, how many amateur astronomers, what type of telescope do you need? Because when I did it, I was just with my dad's telescope, and I had sold off all that stuff when he passed away some years ago. So I never really get to delve into his big telescope and all that stuff that he had, but he always used to talk about it and tell us about it and show us books about it and star maps and all that stuff. So I became just looking up, things are bigger than yourself. Like, we plan on going out west for to get married and stuff, and we want to go somewhere where we can see everything. We want to look up and just be completely engulfed in the stars and see
Somewhere where there's
everything
no light pollution,
move.
right?
Nothing,
Right,
no
yeah.
light. We're gonna go out and do what we can to get away from all that, right? We got plans, but I don't really tell people my next move anyways. But we go out there and we want to do this. And so I look up at the sky and I do that on purpose, because it's bigger than you, and you do admit, you're like, man, this is bigger than me, but I'm floating around out here, you're floating around. Why is it that the natural thing can't be? Like, why do people fight that? Why is the natural state of things something that you say just is built by someone? Really, the thought of a human or human-like being is brought into existence through the human mind due to there's people everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, so you kind of haven't think of an answer for things. You want to find out an answer. You're like, man, what's really going on? You're a caveman out there, and you're like, what the hell is going on, man? Or you're whatever. You're back in the day. You want to figure it out. You're like, there's got to be something, because you start getting smart, and then the human brain's got all these trillions of neurons, and they're like shooting all over the place, and then the brain's growing, and you start thinking and stuff, and consciousness starts to come into play, and then you're like, holy crap. Like, why? What's the meaning of life? Well, what I think the meaning of life is to live it, man, to live it. Live it, and then whatever happens that no one knows, you can have theory, and you can have
you're not
concept, and you can have all these things that you truly believe in. But if you truly believed in them, if you truly believed in the religious texts and everything like that, for those people, and if you truly did, and I've gotten people that get mad at me for asking this, because I know who they are. Like, I know who you are. I know you. You're a friend of mine. I know things that you've done, things that you say, and stuff like that. But yet you still say that you are, religious, and that you believe in this, and that Jesus is your savior, and all those other things, like whether that religion or another religion or whatever. But if you did truly believe that, you would be scared out of your mind, man. You would not do all that stuff you did, because it would truly mean something.
That's the thing. Most people who claim to be religious aren't. And
I know.
Most people who aren't.
That's what I'm
are.
saying. But if the mind truly believed it, you would do everything in your power to not piss him off.
No, because most people are religious by indoctrination, just like the
but,
same reason
every
people are
person
scientific by
every
indoctrination.
person is. Like, where are the perfect people? Like, there aren't, right? That's the whole point.
No.
Right, but then that is made up to me because they're like, hey, nobody's perfect, so let's just say somebody's here to save us, and let's just believe that so that we can be cool and we can just be like, you know what, we can do, we can do this right now, but I'll accept this later, and then I'll be forgiven, or whatever the case is. I'm not an expert. I'm just saying.
I want to say this, Chris. Like,
there's a lot
you say I should just live my life. That's the only thing I should do. I should just live my life. If you are being
Okay.
judged at the end, that's selfish.
Okay.
That's selfish. I just want to tell you that. Like,
Okay,
if you don't understand that,
Well,
if you
selfish in what
did
sense?
believe, if you believe you came across knowledge that would change the way a human being would think, if you believed that,
Okay.
if you believed it, if you researched it and you were fair to it, and you came across knowledge that you believed would change the way it would be selfish not to share that.
Of course.
It honestly would.
Yeah, share it, man. Share it, and all those
So
things. Yeah,
people,
definitely.
anyone out there sharing that, like
So I
Eddie
don't disagree
Bravo
with that at
and
all.
Chrome Gracie and Jim Carrey and Shaq and B.O.B., they're not doing it for publicity. They're not doing it because they want to make more friends.
Sure.
They understand that they're going to take massive amounts of ridicule, and it only happened after years of research. And what happened is this. They separated. I'm going to explain the process. They said, here's everything I can't prove. This is science. They said, I'm going to take this, and if science says it is so, but I can't prove it, I'm going to put it over here. And I'm going to say, I'm going to take all the things that I can verify myself, that I should be able to, just like Pythagorean did years ago, just like Copernicus did. I should be able to say, Bobby, there's math I can do today. I can measure a bridge. I can think about how a gyroscope works.
Okay.
I can imagine, and then I'm going to take all the stuff that I can do, and I'm going to put it over here. And then I'm going to weigh the two, because that's all we can really do.
Sure.
Right?
Because nobody really knows.
And nobody really knows.
No.
But
Nobody really knows.
when people have listened, the only thing I know is everyone that I know, honestly, everyone that I know who has listened to both sides of the argument, because I was you, I'm just going to say this. I was you before I listened to both sides of the argument. But everyone I know who has listened to both sides of the argument and been fair to it, that's the thing. It's like, if you just go out there and watch one video and go, this is stupid, I'm just going to listen to this one guy's. But then you go out there and listen, well, we have satellites. What will we do? Why can't we see any planes on the southern hemisphere? There has to be satellites because I have communication from here. Look at my satellite. It points in this area. It does, yes. But AM radio bounces signals off the ionosphere. You can be bouncing a signal off of... There's an alternate explanation for everything. There really, truly is. And the possibility for a grand conspiracy is very real. And what I'm saying is, for someone to just say... Well, science has told me and I've had no reason to doubt. Nobody has a reason to doubt. Why would you? You were indoctrinated. If you don't understand that, if you don't understand that you were indoctrinated, this is blind faith. I don't know what to tell you. But when you go out and do the research, I don't, if you did the research, if you went out and listened to all of Eric Dubai's videos or Antonio Subarat's videos or Mark Sargent's videos, or if you went out and listened to all these flat earthers who have debunked, who have compared the science on both sides, a gyroscope would tell us if the Earth had a curve. A bridge 24 miles would tell us if the Earth had a curve. A laser over a lake would tell us if the Earth had a curve. And the thing of it is you can argue the science all you want, but there's 4 ways at least that I can see that you could. And then the real irony is you say we'll never know. Like you go, well, we'll never know. We always have to take someone's. The irony is, there's the real irony. There's many ways we could truly know. The real irony is the government's blocked all those ways. For example, there has never in history been north to south circumnavigation of the globe, assuming there's a globe. That's the thing. If you could circumnavigate north to south, you could verify. You could go, bro, I went around that way. See, the Earth on a flat Earth, you can only circumnavigate east to west. If it's flat, that's the only way it can be. But on a globe, you would be able to circumnavigate north to west. When you go home, you come back and tell me who's circumnavigated the globe north to west. And then ask me, why is it so easy to do east to west, but no one's ever done it north to south? Like, simple one. That's like mad simple. That's one of the easiest. Today, this is an easy feat. It's very easy. But why can no one do it? Why has it never been done? It's such an easy feat to do. It's so easy. It's just like and until you have weighed all of those, because there's 50 other things. That's not the only one. But go look it up, Wikipedia it. I have. There is no north-south navigation. There is the closest you're going to find is a guy claims he went to Antarctica but then backtracked. That's not the same thing. That's what would happen on a flat Earth, right? And when you can come up with a valid argument for that.
Well, what type of technology or plane or anything, is it easy to do that? Could you easily take a flight that long without stopping?
Yeah, assuming you can stop in Antarctica,
and refuel, but there's no fueling in Antarctica.
Well, it's convenient. And why is there not? Well, so let's.
Well, where do you got to go? Why spend the money putting fueling stuff there? You don't have. There's nothing in. There's nothing to
Okay,
do.
but
There's
why?
There's nowhere to go.
People could do it. There are millionaires that would do it today in a heartbeat. They'll say, okay, well, I'll put a boat out here with fuel, and we'll do planes that stop on the. It's all blocked by the U.S. government. You can't do it anyway because you can't fly over Antarctica because of the Antarctic Treaty.
So every other government in the world. I mean, so it's all.
Every government in the world agreed.
Every
yes,
government in the
world. It's called the Antarctic Treaty. Basically every government in the world has agreed that no one can fly over Antarctica. Now, let me ask you this.
No, I think there's some political and natural resource reasons and things like that might happen. That just, hey man, stay away from there. You can't.
You'd have to explain that to me. I don't get it.
You can't mess with it. You can't go check for oil. You can't go mess with anything. Stay away.
Let me get
from
this
that
right.
area.
We war. Hold on. We war over. What island or landmass have we not warred over? Do you know of any that are unowned by any country? Do you know of any landmass unowned by a country on the globe? Are you familiar with one?
No.
There's not. I'm gonna tell you right now. There's not.
No, there's not.
But why is Antarctica unowned? It's not. It's not owned. 53 countries signed an Antarctic treaty. Do you know why? Because you'd be the winner. You would have won. That's it. You won at the game of Monopoly. If you owned Antarctica,
wouldn't that be like, hey man, let's just stay off this crazy pile of ice. We don't really, right, there would be no winner, so nobody's going to agree. Nobody's going to be like, all right, you go ahead and take Antarctica, man.
If you're at the North Pole and you head in any direction,
okay,
you make up the direction.
Okay.
What are you going to hit?
What do you mean?
What are you going to hit if you leave Antarctica in any direction? Where will your journey end? It'll end at. I'm sorry, I'm at the North Pole. If you leave the North Pole in any direction, you know where you're going to hit? Antarctica.
Yeah.
You're going to hit Antarctica.
Right.
Now, that tells you that a flat Earth map works. And God damn, I'm back to flat Earth.
Yeah.
Man. I love this argument, man. I just want to have it all day long.
I'm sorry,
man.
It is interesting to hear all that stuff and to have theory, but that's just a theory as well, and there are two sides to every coin, and so even though this works, this can work too. It could work, and I'm not saying that.
I just think until you've
two sides to the coin, so it could possibly, but when you see things like the lunar eclipse, we can go back to that. It's no point because it's interesting. Like, how do you explain how at any angle the lunar eclipse shows a curvature across the moon? Like, where do you? It's impossible if it's that just proves, without a shadow of a doubt, that the Earth is round. Like,
there's videos on it
casts
that
a shadow.
Totally.
Yeah, but it's a video, man. I could,
No.
jackass.
It explains it with logic until you've watched it. See, that's the thing. Like,
what do you mean? There's no logic behind that, though. Like, you can't. If you're like this, then there's no sphere. You see what I'm saying? If the Earth
explains what lunar shadows. Is that what you're saying?
An eclipse.
Only an eclipse.
Just the lunar eclipse.
Lunar eclipse.
Yeah, lunar eclipse. Because as the shadow is cast, you see a curvature. And so, that just shows you.
Actually, if you want to talk about those curvatures, what's absolutely impossible is a moon with no shadowing. That's impossible. Yet all the time, we have a completely bright, brilliant moon that's lit 360 degrees. That's impossible.
We don't, though.
We do, all the time. We have a full moon.
Not all the time.
When I say all the time, I mean it figuratively. How can you have a full moon? If what you're saying is true, the inverse must also be true. How can you have a full moon with no shading?
Because there's different things that you see that could just make it in layman's terms. The things that you see going over the stages of the moon, you can see the stages of the moon. You can
So
see
some
it.
people,
Like it's a sliver, it's a thumbnail, it's a half moon.
Here's the irony. If you had
you can see the
researched,
stages of
if
it.
you had actually researched,
It's not a full moon 100% of the time from everywhere you look.
No, but we have plenty of full moons.
What would it look like if the Earth was flat? What would the moon look like?
The disc.
It would just be a flat disc.
Yeah. A flat disc.
Okay, so is it a flat disc or is it a
Well, it could have some convexness or concaveness to
What I
it.
mean is like I
But-
see it with when I look up in my telescope and I see a big curved moon. I see craters on it, and I see the moon with my telescope. I see the curvature of the shadow cast by, I see it with my own two eyes. I can see the moon with my telescope. Like I look at it all the time. I look right at it. I look right at it with my telescope. I'm like, there it is. And then I look up close. I'm like, damn, that's awesome. And I can see it. And I can see the curvature of the moon. And I can see the craters and the shadows that are cast by the craters. And I can see with my own two eyes through my telescope. So there's some sort of hologram being... Where's that coming from? Because you would have to have something being... Is there a string? Like, is it like a,
Did you know? Let me share a fact with you. You can do at your own home.
Sure. Yeah.
Let me ask you something. The moonlight that's light from the sun, right?
Yeah, it's
Reflected light of the sun.
Of sunlight. Yeah.
So scientifically, if you have shade and you have moonlight, what's going to be hotter? What's going to be hotter? If you measure the two, if you were to measure shade. Or you to measure moonlight on a board, what would be hotter of the two?
I don't know. I don't know.
You have to have an opinion.
I don't know.
Do you think this is a trick setup? Is it a
no,
trick question?
No, I don't know the science behind it. I'm sure that there's an explanation. What is it? Is it the same? Like,
I don't know. Common sense should rule. I mean, I would think common sense would be a very good factor here. You have no commonsensical answer to that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would think that there would be some sort of change in temperature. Yeah. Maybe minute, super small. I don't really know. There's there's absorption of things. There's all sorts of different factors that I have no clue about. I don't really know. But when I see moonlight, I do know that I see some light, and I can see in front of my face because it's being bounced off. Is there batteries up there? Are they shining? Something is there?
Okay, so
are there batteries? Big giant batteries up in there in the whatever's up there.
Like the Truman Show.
Yeah, like the Truman Show, man. The Truman Show. That was a cool movie.
Yeah,
that
Jim
awesome.
Carrey, he's a total nutbag.
I know,
obviously.
man. Yeah.
But you're inclined to say you're okay. You're perfectly okay that our moon has no rotation to us whatsoever that we can perceive. It's just it's tidally locked.
Well, it is. There is a certain
I understand it's rotating with us.
Yeah.
I understand it is spinning technically.
Yeah.
But from our perspective, it has no spin whatsoever. It just happens to be. Where else have we observed that in the universe? Is
do
that
you mean?
observable? Where else is that observed in the universe?
Well, why does it have to be observed anywhere else? Everything is different. You can look at every single piece of everything in the universe, and everything is different. Everything acts differently.
Well, I don't. But your argument is that
There's alcohol out there.
but
There's a
hold-
nebula
no, hold
of
on.
actual drinking alcohol.
But the
that you get
argument
drunk on.
changes constantly. You go, well, of course the Earth is a sphere because we look at the universe and there's spheres everywhere.
Well,
okay, but
physics
the
is-
moment that I go, but the moment you use that argument of look everywhere, just look everywhere.
Yeah.
Where do you see tidal locks? Where's that everywhere? Show me one place.
The
there's a
reason
tidal
why
lock.
there may not be a tidal lock is because it's a instance that is unique. Like, why is there not uniqueness? Why can't there be? We had another body hit us,
Yeah.
and chunks came off,
Yeah.
and spun and formed.
Perfect spheres.
Absolutely, because
Our Earth is a
gravity
perfect
pulls-
sphere, and the moon's a perfect sphere.
Pluto is
and the
not.
sun's
It's
a
almost a perfect sphere, and that's the reason why it's not a planet. They're saying Pluto just hasn't become. It's not big enough. It doesn't have enough mass to completely be a sphere, but it used to be because gravity has pulled that all. But now it's just a rock, right? So you just call it a rock, Pluto. But it just didn't make it. It wasn't big enough. And so it didn't coagulate or it didn't spin into a ball, and you call it a planet. There are other planets that we can see. They've discovered planets that are next to different binary star systems and everything, and you can see the wobble of the star, and you can see it with the telescope.
Pluto's not perfectly round?
No, Pluto is not perfectly round.
That looks perfectly round to me.
Yeah, but just if you like measure it and put it into a planet. Like that's the whole debate for Pluto, is that it's
I would
not.
say if you put a
like
circle
a rock
right there right now.
Well, yeah, but that's like I said, like that's
perfectly.
probably through when you look at things like that too, you're gonna get some
CGI in there.
No, I'm not saying CGI. I'm just saying just like your Venus that you saw, it was just there wasn't an actual perfect curve there. You can see the curve, but I don't know, you know what I mean? But it's right there. That's Pluto.
It's perfectly round to me. I think if anyone were to look it up, that's
Pluto.
That's about the most perfect circle I've ever seen.
So there's pictures and everybody's in on it. Like, it's like there's video. Like, where does it end? So, but yeah, man. It's cool to think about.
I get
stuff.
sucked back in. It's the
Yeah,
most
you get
important
sucked
thing in the
back
world
in
for me,
because
man. It is.
It's just
It is
it's
the
cool
most
to think about,
important
really.
thing in the world to me. I think everyone should entertain it. But
Yeah, I think everybody is. I think everybody in some form is talking about it or thinking about it or having something to say about it or whatever.
And it's cool.
So
Obviously, Kris, you've given it some thought. I respect that. I got love for you. I respect you. You're here because you're a close friend of mine. Not to say I don't have people on that aren't close friends, but you are one of those close friends of mine. Man, how do we? It's 3:23. How do we sum this up? It's time to bounce.
I do. Yeah, I gotta bounce. Yeah, here in just a minute. Yeah. I don't know, man.
How you want to end it, Nikki?
Huh?
Bye.
No wisdom to drop on us. No, all these people are hanging out. They want to learn something today. There's no wisdom to drop.
You're not gonna learn a lot from me.
I think that I think I've spit some pretty good wisdom when it comes
No, you
to
did,
certain
bro.
things,
You
man.
make me
I don't
think.
know.
I listened. I learned today. I didn't. I'm not. For the record, I'm not saying I'm right, people. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not out there arguing. I didn't come out and say. I never said that the Earth is definitively flat. I never said that. If I throw it out there, it's because I think that a group discussion is like the hive mind. It's the mind thinking.
I
It's
was
like
looking for it. I knew that stuff would come up. Anything and everything would.
And I know Kris is a smart person, and Brenden and Nikki, we're all smart. And when you guys throw your arguments out there, I do listen. And when I go back to my computer, I start typing it away. Holy shit, is Pluto not round? It's like I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna research those things, and it may change my opinion. But the only thing I hope that I do is I hope some of you guys go out there and do research it, because it's hard. It's hard for the amount of ridicule you have to take. It's hard for Crone. It's hard for Eddie. It's hard for Jim Carrey. It's hard for B.O.B. It's hard for. I don't think anyone came to coming out with that lightly, and they had to overcome all of their indoctrination. And whether you disagree with me, call it indoctrination. It is indoctrination, and I know I'm monopolizing, and I'm throwing my opinions out there right now, but you are told the earth is round. You are, and everything you're taught, all the science supports it. And I just think that to be a true seeker of knowledge, you have to doubt all things.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's the thing. Other than stuff like that, other than planetary exploration and those types of things, when it comes to the human condition, like I think that a lot more people can actually benefit from concentrating on that a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I think there's some things that are outside of ourselves that neglect what's inside and what's right in front of you, right, on a daily basis. And I think that's a very important aspect of life as well, the human condition, the connection between nature and human beings, the connection between family members, things like that. Like if let's spend some time on that. Let's spend, that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like I still entertain things, but I think that the human condition is an important thing right now because everybody is dividing and things like that. So if we use technology to come together, if we use things like that to come together. And I think what happens is people come together and then they form a group and then they go against another group. And then it just becomes more of a clash, more of an argument, which is good. Debate is good. Arguments are not, I think. I think debate is way better than arguments. I think being a good, a master debater is good, but being always argumentative.
I'm a cunning linguist myself.
Right. So, like we can end on that, man. I feel like there's a lot more that we can accomplish, together,
Yeah,
than there is apart
sure.
and stuff like that. So, but, I have my way. I want to get away sometimes too, and do my own thing. And not to say that anybody else is wrong or anything, but, forming some good habits and stuff like that. I think that people can really look into that. I've changed like myself in a huge way in a lot of those things, and so I feel like that's something people should look at doing rather than the argumentative and I'm right, you're wrong, or look into them. I mean, you can look into things and do your thing, but when it all comes down to it, at the end of the day, birds are chirping and the wind's blowing.
Enjoy life, live life,
out,
spend time with your family members, no doubt.
And focus on those things, and then you'll be enlightened beyond your imagination by just not, like, man, that's stupid saying, like, stop and smell the flowers and stuff like that, like little things like that. More and more and more is true. It's a stupid little saying, but really it is. Like, if you really think about it, like, I stop, man, I just kind of watch bees fly, and I'm just like, man, this is pretty freaking cool. This is pretty amazing. There's this thing that's, like, alive, that's
and scientifically impossible at the same time.
Flying
bees
around.
are not supposed to be able to fly.
Yeah, and so there's all these things, and and we have lizards in our backyard, and we name them. My dog, we have lizards that live in our little area in our backyard, and we talk to them every morning. We have ducks we raise. We have these things. These are the things that people take for granted, and they get too caught up in things. So, my take is, or advice, if I can give it, is look inward.
Mm.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks for joining, Kris. Thanks for being a part of the podcast. Hopefully, I
Thanks,
didn't
man.
get
Yeah, it was fun.
didn't get too out of hand. But,
It's all right. I know.
We go way
I knew it was
back.
going to
We're
come
all
up,
right.
and I was like, I'm going to prepare myself a little bit. So I had already done some research or whatnot. Like, what? It's going to pop up. Some of these little things are going to pop up.
You're coming on this show, it's going to pop up.
But
That's
no,
for damn
man. But
sure.
no, like, those things are legit things that cannot be ignored. Religion and those types of things. Like, it all is good. It's good to debate, good to talk about. But like I said, I think that there are many, many other very, very important, legitimate, and like really great things to do. Other than that. I mean, it's gonna come. If it is what it is, it's gonna eventually come out at some point. And there are people, like I said, that have their place. You're one of them. You're gonna be that one. You're gonna be part of that group that is here for that reason. You know what I mean? Like, so what, you can say, hey man, you need to, but I don't need to. You do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to, and you can come tell me and you can prove me, and I'll be like, dude, you were right all along. And if you don't have that drive to do those type, you have your own goal in mind or your own drive or whatever. And so everybody has their own place, There are people out there that, that are dumb as rocks, and they can't really contribute. They don't need to contribute. Their brains don't work. You can't, your brains don't working like somebody like yourself, man. So, I'm going to entrust blindly, right, that you're going to.
Well, it's not blindly. You're out there looking through telescopes, man. You're one of the educated, Kris. You are a contributor. You make me think. You always have profound thoughts. There's no question about it, bro. And I don't consider this an argument that one of us won. I consider it a discussion where we made each other think, and we always had deep thoughts, man. We always when we were hanging out.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Nikki, you didn't contribute at all. I just want to say that.
I never do. But okay.
I'm just joking. You know that.
She has a
I'm
cool
just
shirt,
teasing you. You did bring a
Thanks.
cool shirt,
Yeah,
though, and that's all that really matters.
Yeah, that was my plan. Just kind of observe.
Yeah.
I told you guys that's what I do. I observe, and if I have commentary, maybe I'll make it.
I'm just teasing. You know that.
It's all right. A lot of times people they got a lot to say, so they just say it.
Well, you are the guest speaker, so
Yeah,
it's
sure,
good to let
sure.
you talk about what you need.
That's the point. It's to
Yeah,
introduce
yeah,
people to Kris
exactly.
Kofstad. That's the point today. That's what we do. We let you meet people on another level on this podcast. So hopefully some people came on and said, "Damn, that's Kris Kofstad. That mofo is deep, man.
He's deep.
He's deep. He is deep. I've hung out with him. Kris is deep."
He's cool. Go check out his school.
Yeah.
Yep. If you're in Camden, Georgia, check him out. He's legit. I've rolled with him. He ain't no joke.
I got nothing for him.
So, all right, we're signing off, guys.